and welcome to my lesson on Windows 95, the new graphical operating system from Microsoft. Windows 95 is an operating system and a user interface for running all your computer applications. As an operating system, Windows 95 manages all the operations of your computer system. As a user interface, it allows you to effectively communicate with many software applications at one time. In this lesson, you will learn how to install Windows 95 on your computer. From there, you'll learn how to interpret the Windows 95 desktop, its screen icons and controls. You'll also learn how to customize your system, including the screen display, sounds, and program shortcuts. In addition to those skills, you'll learn how to use the Explorer to perform file operations such as finding, copying, moving, and deleting files. Plus, you'll learn how to recover deleted files using the Recycle bin. We'll also look at the Windows 95 options that control your multimedia devices. And as we're learning these skills together, we'll look at the new ways Windows 95 performs familiar Windows commands. Viewers, to effectively comprehend the subjects in this lesson, you should have a clear understanding of how the various components of your system function together. You should also be familiar with basic computer operations, such as using a mouse and keyboard to select options within pull-down menus and dialog boxes, as well as basic file structure and a firm grasp of starting and exiting applications. If you need a review of these skills, see my tape on learning Windows 3.1. Now, before we start the lesson, I'd like to introduce my student assistant, Suzanne. Just follow along with her, and you'll be using this program in no time at all. So, let's get started. If you haven't turned on your CPU and monitor, do so now. For those of you who have Windows 95 already installed on your system, you're ready to go. However, if Windows 95 is not already installed on your computer, you'll need to complete that task before continuing with this lesson. The installation procedure is pretty simple. I'll give you a few pointers here, then I'm sure you'll want to stop the tape to complete the installation. It may take between 30 to 60 minutes or more to complete the installation depending on your computer type, or if you're installing from floppy disk instead of CD-ROM. For this lesson, I'm going to assume you have an earlier version of Windows installed on your computer and are now installing Windows 95 as an upgrade. The first thing we'll look at are the system requirements. You'll need a 386DX or higher based computer with at least 4 megabytes of system RAM. A standard VGA monitor is required along with a 3.5-inch floppy disk drive. A CD-ROM disk drive is recommended but not essential. You'll also need approximately 30 megabytes of hard disk space for a minimum installation. These are minimum system requirements. You will obviously get much better performance if you have a faster processor like a 486 and more onboard memory such as 8 megabytes or more. Now back to basic requirements. You'll need a keyboard and a mouse to operate in this powerful Windows environment. Suzanne will be using a 2-button mouse in this lesson. Although a modem is not required to operate Windows 95, you will miss some very exciting features if you do not have one. If you have a printer, it should be connected to your computer before starting installation. We won't be printing any documents during this lesson, but as part of the installation process, the operating system reads the system components and installs proper drivers so they'll function correctly. A component such as a monitor, printer, external CD-ROM player, or a scanner must be connected to the system to be recognized and properly configured by the Windows 95 installation program. Although it isn't a system requirement, you will need one formatted floppy disk for this lesson. Viewers, before installing a new operating system, it is a good idea to back up all essential files on your computer, including your current operating system. If the new operating system fails, you'll need your backups to recover. With that said, let's install Windows 95. The existing Windows program must be open and its Program Manager window active. Close any other programs at this time to give maximum memory to the installation routines and avoid problems with any open files. If you are running a virus protection utility, you should also turn that off while installing this new operating system. Windows 95 can be installed from CD-ROM or floppy disk. Installing from CD-ROM is quicker than floppies, but either way will do the job. Now place the Windows 95 install disk number 1 or CD-ROM in the appropriate drive. Suzanne, use your mouse to pull down the File menu on the Windows menu bar. Then click on the Run option. In the File Run dialog box that appears on screen, Type the drive letter for your floppy disk drive or CD-ROM drive, then type a colon and the word setup on the command line. When you finish, press the Enter key or click on the OK button to start the installation process. The installation process is pretty automatic from here. Just follow the on-screen instructions. And if you are using floppy disks, change the installation disks as directed by the screen prompts. The installation process includes an automatic review of your system components. The operating system will then automatically adjust itself for optimal performance according to the specific features of your computer system. In the course of this review, the installation process will also scan your hard drive and advise you of any repairs such as defragmentation that might be needed. After this system review and any necessary repairs, you may choose from 4 types of installation: typical, portable, compact, and custom. Suzanne will use the typical installation. If you're installing to a laptop computer, you may want to choose portable or the even smaller compact installation to save disk space. During the setup process, screen messages will illustrate features of the new program, including the Start button and Taskbar, Explore, plug-and-play devices, smoother multitasking, and email and fax programs built into the operating system. We'll look at most of these new features in this lesson. At the end of this installation procedure, Windows 95 will prompt you to remove any disk, then we'll proceed to reboot your computer. After your computer reboots, you will see a dialog box offering a Windows tour and information about what's new. No doubt you'll want to review each of these on your own time. For now, click on the Close button so we can get on with the lesson. Normally at this point, I'd ask those of you who already have Windows 95 installed to click on its application icon. However, once it's installed, Windows 95 starts automatically whenever you turn on the computer. Remember that Windows 95 is an operating system and must therefore be running before your computer can run any other programs. Before Windows 95, the operating system was DOS, short for Disk Operating System. All previous versions of Windows had to operate within DOS. Now DOS runs within the Windows 95 operating system. Suzanne, let's begin our exploration of this new environment by looking at its core, the Windows desktop. Suzanne, when Windows 95 opens on your computer, you might notice similarities and differences from your previous Windows screen. If you have used Windows before, you're already familiar with the desktop metaphor. The screen is meant to resemble a desk with folders on it that represent various tasks. Suzanne's desktop is essentially empty since she hasn't any open windows on screen. Her desktop is very simple. It has 3 icons and the new taskbar. Viewers, your screen may differ from Suzanne's due to the type of install you chose and the work that has been done since that installation. Although Suzanne's system has been used since Windows 95 was installed on her machine, it still has the default display and system settings. We'll use these as the base for our operations. The icons here are different from what we saw in earlier versions of Windows. There is no program manager or any group icons.
Wait a second, Professor. If there's no program manager, how do I start my programs?
Those duties are now handled by the Taskbar Start button, which is located at the lower left of the screen. We'll look at that in a moment, but first, let's begin our investigation of the desktop by looking at the My Computer icon. This icon represents your computer. Double-click on it, Suzanne. Within the My Computer window, we can quickly and easily see everything on our computer. It contains information about all the system components and all the storage locations on our computer, including the folders and files in these locations.
Professor, this window looks a little different than earlier windows. Does it work the same?
You're right, Suzanne. It does look a little different, but it functions basically the same as those earlier windows. Let's review the parts of a window and see what's new. First of all, an application window has 6 basic elements: the caption, menu and status bars, borders, an area for contents, and at times scroll bars. The caption is the top bar of the window. In earlier versions, this section of a window was called the title bar. It shows the name of the open window, My Computer in this case. To the left of the title is a small computer image. This is the control icon. Click on the icon with your left mouse button. This control menu gives the familiar commands for changing the size of a window: restore, move, minimize, maximize, and close. These commands can be accessed with the mouse or the keyboard. Suzanne, press your escape key or just click the mouse in the caption bar to close the control menu. On the right side of the window caption are 3 buttons: an underline, a square, and an X. Although these symbols are new, you should be familiar with the actions of the first 2. The underline is your minimize button. Click that button, Suzanne. The minimize command makes the window disappear but leaves the program active. Suzanne, do you see the My Computer button on the taskbar at the bottom of the screen? That shows us that the window is still active but not currently open on the desktop. Click the My Computer button, Suzanne. The window is reopened. Now click on the square button on the caption, Suzanne. This is the Maximize button. It enlarges your window to fill all the space available on your monitor. When the window is maximized, that button changes to show 2 little squares. This is called the Restore button. And a click of that button returns the window to its previous size. The last button on the caption is the X, which is a Close button. It closes the window and the program running in it. Click on that button, Suzanne. Since the program is closed, we no longer see it listed on the taskbar below. Experienced Windows users may notice that an icon means something a little different here than it used to. A minimized window does not show up as an icon on the desktop. It appears on the taskbar with the other active programs. Any icons that appear on the desktop represent inactive programs, available but not currently open and running on the system. Suzanne, click with your right mouse button on My Computer. This brings up a shortcut menu. The top menu command now is Open. Click on that choice to open the window again. We can open a window by double-clicking on it or by using this shortcut menu. Now, let's finish going over the caption. The caption is the place to point when you want to drag a window to a different location. Point to the caption, any place except on one of the buttons, Suzanne, and click and hold your mouse button. Now drag the mouse around. As you do, notice that the window moves in the same direction as your mouse. When you release the mouse button, the window is dropped in a new location. This is one example of drag and drop control. We'll see another when we copy some files later in the lesson. Besides moving the window to a new location on the desktop, we can also resize the window in order to see more of the contents area. Suzanne, move your mouse pointer to the right edge of the window until you see the resizing arrow. Now click and drag your mouse to the left to make this window narrower. Now click and drag the right border to the far right side of the desktop. There, we've made the window wider. We can use the same method to resize the window vertically. Below the window caption is the menu bar. The pull-down menus on this bar allow us to access all the commands available to this program. They operate just as they had before. A single click will pull down a menu, or pressing the Alt key and the underscored letter in a menu name will open that menu. Clicking outside the menu or pressing the Escape key will close it. Menus in Windows and Windows-compatible applications are standardized so you can anticipate where to look for common types of commands. You'll always find the File menu in the leftmost menu position and Help in the rightmost position. We'll look a little closer at the menu bar in just a moment. Underneath the menu bar is the Contents area. Within this area, we can see icons for disk drives and folders. These icons allow us to access any drive, folder, or file within this window. The number and type of icons that appear in the Contents area depends on what type of application window is opened. At the bottom of the window is the status bar. It displays helpful messages about selected menu commands and the objects within the Contents area. Right now it's telling us that there are 10 objects within this window. Other information will show up in the status bar, so remind yourself to check this space periodically. Also, on the right side of this window, we have the standard window scroll bar, indicating there may be more information in this window that we can't currently see. In some windows, you will see a vertical and a horizontal scroll bar. These scroll bars work just as they did in earlier Windows applications. Now, let's see what kind of options we have on the menu bar. Open the View menu, Suzanne. This menu also has some codes that we should recognize. The last command, Options, has an ellipsis, which means that a dialog box will open for more information. The top two commands, Toolbar and Status Bar, are check-off options. A check mark next to an option indicates that option is active. A click will remove the check mark and make that option inactive. Suzanne, let's add a toolbar to this window. Click on the option name. Now, there's a new feature in the window, a row of icons just below the menu bar. These icons compose the toolbar. Each one represents a specific command. Although we can find these commands within the pull-down menus, it is much quicker to access these command tasks with a single click of the mouse. Suzanne, pull down the View menu again. Now click on the Details option. The Contents area changes to give us more detailed information about each icon. Suzanne is given detailed information about her hard drive and CD-ROM drive storage capabilities, plus other information concerning the folders that appear in this window. Suzanne, before we finish our window tour, let's look a little closer at the control icon. Move your mouse on top of the control icon and click your right mouse button. The right button opens a different set of commands than the left mouse button. Don't click any of these commands until I've finished going over them. The first is self-explanatory. Close will close this window, the same as the X button on the caption. The second opens the File Explorer, which is similar to the old File Manager. Find is also a file-related command used to find a file. We won't be covering the Map Network Drive and Disconnect Network Drive options since Suzanne's machine isn't connected to a network, but we will see how to create a shortcut later in the lesson. The Properties command at the bottom of the list is an important command to know. Click on the Properties command, Suzanne, and let's find out what properties are. The first page of this dialog box gives general information about your system, including the chip model and amount of RAM. This very useful description of your system is known as the System Properties. We can see further details by using the question mark button. Click on that button using the left mouse button. When the mouse pointer changes shape, click on the line that displays your computer type. The help box tells us that the information we clicked on specifies your processor type and the amount of memory in your computer. Now click the right-hand tab at the top of this window labeled Performance. Here are further details about your system status and a place where you might find suggestions to improve performance as you add components to the system. Across the bottom of this page are buttons that will open additional dialog boxes for advanced settings, such as hard drive optimization, file sharing, and other advanced topics, which we'll leave alone for now. Click Cancel to close the dialog box. The second icon on the desktop is your Recycle bin, Suzanne. It's a temporary holding place for deleted files and is a very handy new feature, since you can retrieve a deleted file from the Recycle bin if you decide you really need that file. Double-click the Recycle bin icon. The Recycle bin is a lot like a trash can. It's a place to hold stuff you want to throw away. Retrieving things from this trash can isn't as messy as a real one and a lot easier than older retrieving methods. Suzanne, your recycle bin is empty right now since you haven't thrown anything away yet. As you work with a computer and delete unneeded files, they will be held here in the recycle bin. The bin is set up to hold up to 10% of your total hard drive space. Once the bin reaches this limit, it starts to empty automatically, erasing the oldest files first. The recycle bin is a real lifesaver. It holds all deleted files, even if they were deleted accidentally. So you can retrieve them without using a lot of complicated retrieval procedures. You simply open this window, find the file, and move it back into its regular storage location. We'll see this more clearly when we look at the procedures for deleting, moving, and copying files later in this lesson. While we have two windows open, Suzanne, let's recall one more point about selecting windows. The Recycle Bin window is on top of the My Computer window right now, but you can see some of the edges of My Computer behind it. The caption on Recycle is a brighter color, indicating that it is the active window. Now click on the My Computer window, Suzanne. See how it moves in front of Recycle? This is another example of the desktop metaphor. Windows are like pieces of paper or folders that can be shuffled on top of each other according to which one you are working with at the time. Now click on the desktop. Both Windows captions go dim, indicating that neither one is currently active, even though My Computer is still on top. This suggests that the Windows 95 desktop itself is an active element in this working environment. This was not the case in the past. Right-click with your pointer on the desktop, Suzanne. This pop-up menu gives us commands specific to the desktop. These commands allow us to arrange the icons in a particular order, or to simply line up the icons without changing their order of appearance. Another Properties command appears at the bottom of this menu, giving access to the display properties on your system. We'll take a closer look at this option in a moment. Let's finish exploring the desktop first. At the bottom of the screen is a new feature of Windows 95, Suzanne, the Taskbar. It has a start button on the left and a clock on the right. It also displays buttons representing our open windows. Currently, we have buttons for My Computer and for the Recycle Bin on the taskbar. As new windows are opened on the desktop, additional buttons representing those windows are added to the taskbar. We can use these buttons to switch between windows. Suzanne, click on the My Computer button. Now that window is in front of the Recycle Bin window. Now use the taskbar to move the Recycle Bin to the front. The ability to have multiple programs running on your system at one time is called multitasking. You had this feature in earlier Windows versions. However, the multitasking in Windows 95 promises to be much smoother and faster. What does this mean to you? Well, it should translate into a more efficient desktop and enable you to easily switch from one task to another. Now, let's look at the Start button. Click on the Start button with your left mouse button, Suzanne. This menu is the workhorse of the taskbar and Windows 95. It is used to start programs, open files, change the system configuration, get help, and shut down the computer. Let's begin our exploration of this menu by looking at one of the most basic computer operations, shutting down your computer. Suzanne, click on the Shutdown command in this menu. We are given a confirmation dialog box asking, "Are you sure you want to shut down the computer?" We are also given a variety of shutdown options. It's important to remember this command, Suzanne. Since Windows 95 is our operating system, an orderly shutdown is important for safeguarding files and programs on the system. You should not turn off the computer with Windows 95 or any other program still running. An orderly shutdown process closes active files, clears program instructions from memory, and returns any stray data elements to disk storage, where you'll be able to find them again next time. We don't really want to shut down yet, Suzanne, so click No for now. Click on the Start menu again to reopen it. Just above Shutdown is the Run command. Click to open this dialog box. This is exactly the same as the File Run command in the old Program Manager. All we need to do here is type in a program's executable file, then click on OK to run that program. This is the basic operation for installing new software. In the lower right-hand corner of this dialog box is the Browse button. You use it to help locate the path to a particular file. This dialog box also has a drop-down list of the last 10 run commands used in Windows 95. Clicking on a command line will activate that command. We have no need to run a command at this time, so click on the Cancel button to close this dialog box. Once again, open up the Start menu. The Help command is pretty self-explanatory, so we'll skip that. And we'll have a better chance to see how the Find command works when we look at the Explorer. So let's move on to the next command. Highlight Settings, Suzanne. This command gives us access to the control panel, printers, and settings for the taskbar. Let's take a look at the taskbar controls. Click on the taskbar option. On the taskbar options card, the check mark for Always on Top means that no window can cover the taskbar. Suzanne, toggle this option off. As you do, notice how the sample window changes to show that a window now covers part of the taskbar. Toggle the Always on Top option back on so we can always have instant access to this feature. We also have commands to auto-hide the taskbar display, make the Start menu icons larger or smaller, and to display the taskbar clock. We'll leave the default settings for now. We can change these options anytime during our Windows operations. We'll also see other options for customizing our display as we continue with this lesson. For now, click on the Cancel button to close the Taskbar Properties dialog box, Suzanne. Open the Start menu again, and this time highlight Documents. Another sub-menu opens. Viewers, this one will be different on everyone's computer because it is a list of the most recent documents that have been opened. If you've just loaded Windows 95 onto your computer, it won't have anything on the list yet. For those of you who do have documents listed here, notice that not only does this menu list document titles, but each document has an icon on it. This icon indicates which application was used to create that particular document. Many of you will recognize this feature as an association between the parent program and the child document. From this menu, you can click on the document and the application that was used to create it will automatically open. For example, the first item on the list is named Big Window. The icon for this document indicates that it was created in Microsoft Paint. Suzanne's list shows the 15 most recently opened documents. The size of this list can be customized to show as many as 15 or as few as 5 documents. Move your mouse up to the Programs menu, Suzanne. It's at the top of the list because it's the command you'll probably use most frequently. You can use it quickly to select and start various application programs. Move your cursor to the top of this menu. Now slowly move the mouse down to highlight some application names. These application icons and their submenus replace the old group windows and application-specific icons. Notice that the program folder names, which also have an arrow next to them, have submenus. And some of these submenus have folders which also have submenus. Suzanne, move back to the top of this menu. Within this submenu, we have access to the familiar Windows accessories such as the calculator, card file, character map, notepad, and paint. We also have some new accessories in Windows 95. The Hyper-Terminal command provides connection to other PCs and online services. At the bottom of the list is WordPad. It replaces the old Write Word processor. Suzanne, let's take a quick look at the accessories folders. The Microsoft Fax program works just like using your printer, but allows you to send and receive faxes complete with cover pages using your favorite word processor or graphics program. The multimedia controls allow you to play music CDs or even playback computerized movies on your computer. You can record and playback sounds from virtually any source. Use system tools to back up your files or to automatically defragment, compress, and even repair your hard disk. This helps keep your system running smoothly. Slide your mouse down to highlight Startup. This set is empty right now, but as you work with your system, you'll put programs into this group that you want to start automatically whenever Windows 95 opens. You can still get to the MS-DOS prompt with this next command. Although Windows 95 replaces DOS as the operating system, it will still run DOS-based programs and execute DOS commands, so your investment in those programs is not lost. We'll take a closer look at the next item, Windows Explorer, in just a few minutes. But before we launch any of these programs, Suzanne, let's take a closer look at some of the other controls available for the system. Windows 95 offers many different ways to look at your information and ways to do things, even simple tasks like closing a window. As you experiment with the program, you'll form your own preferences and employ various techniques in accomplishing different tasks. Now I want to show you the controls for customizing your screen view and other controls. Your Start menu is still open, Suzanne, so move your mouse to Settings. Select Control Panel. The icons here are fairly self-explanatory. Some resemble former Windows icons, while others are brand new. Let's look first to see what's changed in one of the familiar choices. Double-click the Date/Time icon, Suzanne. Here's another Properties dialog box. They're just everywhere. And this dialog box is richer in visual information than earlier versions. If your computer clock is not up to date, just use the pull-down menus and the calendar to make the correct date settings. To change the time setting, first select the time unit you need to change, hour, minute, second, or AM/PM. Then click the small up or down arrows to increase or decrease the setting to the correct time. Click Apply when you have it right. There's more. Click the Time Zone tab. Suzanne is in Mountain Time, which is 7 hours different from Greenwich Mean Time. Isn't that a neat picture? Click the drop-down menu on the bar above the map, Suzanne, and let's check out the Greenwich Baseline Time Zone. This time zone includes Dublin, Edinburgh, and London. This is fun to play with, but back to work, Suzanne. Click the mouse on the time zone bar and drag it back over to Mountain Time Zone. And click the checkbox for daylight savings changes as well, since we have to spring forward and fall back each year. Click OK to close the Date Time dialog box and save your changes. Right next to the Date Time icon is the one for display. Let's do that one next, Suzanne. This dialog box format is beginning to be familiar by now. Tab card titles across the top, action buttons at the bottom. The first card is for your background, the desktop area of your screen. The sample screen in the middle gives a preview of the options as you review them. Patterns and wallpaper options were available in earlier versions of Windows, but you didn't have the preview sampler. Patterns are monochrome patterns that can fill the desktop space. Wallpaper adds pictures and color options. Let's look at a wallpaper choice, Suzanne. Use the scroll bar to find diamonds, then click on that wallpaper type. Notice how the sample screen displays our selection. Try another. How about Argyle? You can have lots of fun testing options here after the lesson. Let's move on to see what other goodies we can find. Click the Screensaver tab to look at the next card. A screensaver used to be a way to prevent burn-in on monochrome monitors. It can still do that, but now it's often used as a kind of low-level security feature. When the screen is idle a specified period of time, the screensaver kicks in and work on the screen is hidden from other people. Click the down arrow next to the Screensaver text box, Suzanne. Let's see what the options are. Click Curves and Colors. And look at the sample image. That should hypnotize them till you get back. The checkoff box for Password Protected allows you to set a password for clearing the screensaver, so it's even more secure if you leave your computer idle for a while. And the wait setting simply tells how many minutes the screen is idle before the screensaver comes on. The next tab is Appearance, Suzanne. This tab allows us to change the appearance of our desktop windows and their elements. Click the down arrow next to the Scheme text box, Suzanne. Here are some preset choices. Let's check a few of these out. Use the scroll bar to find the eggplant color scheme, then click on it. Well, maybe we should try a different color. How about lilac? Once again, you can explore the options or design your own. Desktop is showing in the Item text box. Suzanne, open this drop-down list so we can see what items we can modify. Each item here can be modified independently from the others. Scroll up this list and select the Active title bar. Now, whatever changes we make in this dialog box will affect only the Active title bar and no other screen element. Suzanne, pull down the color list, then select that bright red. That should keep you awake. I'm sure you'll have fun with these controls, but let's move along now. Click the Settings tab. This one isn't quite as much fun perhaps, but still very useful. The choices here will depend on the capabilities of your specific monitor. Suzanne, click Cancel to close the Display Properties window. None of your settings will be saved, but you can come back later to explore the options further. One of the new icons in the control panel is the one for sound. Open that one, Suzanne. Sounds are set up to signal events as you work on your computer, so the first part of this dialog box holds a list of events that you can attach sounds to. Viewers, if your system doesn't have a sound card, you won't be able to add or play sounds on your computer. For example, click asterisk. The icon indicates that this action has a sound. The name of this sound is chord, and a click of the preview button lets you hear a sample. The schemes at the bottom of this dialog box are collections of preset sounds that you can choose from, much like the color schemes for the window display. Suzanne, you can explore these options on your own time. Click on Cancel to close this window, and then on the X button to close the control panel window. We're ready to do a little exploring. One of the tasks of an operating system is to manage file storage and retrieval tasks. This was done in the File Manager in earlier versions of Windows. In Windows 95, the Explorer handles these tasks, but it works differently from the File Manager despite the initial similarities. Let's take a look. In typical Windows fashion, there are several ways to open the Explorer. We saw this item on the right button menu when we were looking at the My Computer window earlier in this lesson, and also on the Start Programs menu. We'll use the latter. Click on the Start button and select Programs. And the Explorer, it should be listed on the far bottom right of the display at the end of your application list. When the Explorer window appears, click on its Maximize button. The caption tells us we are exploring the C drive, and the taskbar now has a new button with the same title. The Explorer has several view options. We're looking at the List view, and in this view, each item is represented by a symbol plus its name. Each symbol tells us something about what kind of item we're viewing. For example, the icon for My Computer looks like a desktop computer, and the icon for the floppy drive looks like a disk drive. The file folder icons represent collections of files, such as you might find in a filing cabinet. Look at the top of the left window, Suzanne, and you'll notice something different. At the top of this tree structure, there is an icon for the desktop, not the C prompt. This is followed by My Computer, and under it we see icons for all the drives on Suzanne's machine, including an icon representing her CD-ROM drive. Viewers, your display will differ according to the components of your particular system. This view is more universal than we could see in earlier Windows displays. The desktop is at the top of the tree, indicating that this is the container for all your other programs and files. All your work takes place on the desktop, whether you open files from this computer or connect to another computer through a network. The indents on this tree structure show subsets or subdirectories. The floppy drives are indented under My Computer to show that they all fit inside the system. And the file folders listed under the C drive all fit within that drive. Make sure the C drive icon is selected, Suzanne. The right side of this window displays the files and folders of the selected icon in the left side of the window. This display technique works just like the old File Manager. The header above this window section tells us we are looking at the C drive, and the icons below the file folders are files stored at the root level of the C drive. Click the View menu, Suzanne, and select Details. Now the right side window shows some additional information about each file. The Details view shows the name of the file or folder, the size of each file, and what type it is, and the date and time it was last modified. With these file type descriptions, we can also begin to interpret what the different icons mean. For example, Suzanne, look at the AutoExec file. It has a small window icon next to it. The file type is MS-DOS batch file. A little further down the list is another window icon for the command file, and the type description is MS-DOS application. Both of these are executable files, so we can see that the window icon means a command file of some sort.
Professor, didn't you say that Windows 95 is a new operating system? Why is there an AutoExec DOS file? That was the old operating system.
Good eyes, Suzanne. Click on the DOS folder in the left window to see what's inside. There are some familiar old DOS commands. Windows 95 is indeed a new, complete operating system, but it will still handle some older programs that were written to run under DOS. The DOS commands listed here are used by Windows 95 and are still available to older programs that ran in DOS. These files allow us to run any previous DOS or Windows-based application. Remember that in Windows 95 there are icons for both the computer components, hardware, and for software, program files as well as document files. As you continue to work with Windows 95, you can use this Details view to interpret what the file icons mean. The file detail category headers are also quick sort buttons, so you can rearrange this list quickly. Click on the Size button, Suzanne. Now our list of files are in ascending order according to file size. Click again and our files are now in descending order. Click on Modified. And now the list is sorted by date and time, most recent files first. Click on Name to return the list to its standard alpha sort. Let's look a little more closely at the left side of the window. A new feature here is that the hardware components have names beginning with My Computer. You can change the names to really personalize your system if you want. C: is the usual name of the hard drive, but if you want to label it Fort Knox, it's easy to do. Click once on the hard drive symbol, Suzanne. Notice that the caption and the taskbar button titles change when you selected a new location. Now point to the C drive again and click your right mouse button and select Properties. You can also find this command under the File menu. This dialog box gives you some specific information about the space that's used in free space on your hard drive. And it also has a space to give the hard drive a label. To personalize it, what would you like to call it, Suzanne?
Oh, I don't know, Professor. How about Rodeo?
Viewers, type in any name you like. The C: designator will always show up in parentheses so you won't get lost among cute drive names. And if your hard drive is divided into partitions, you can name those partitions too. Before we leave this dialog box, let's take a look at the other card labeled Tools. Here are some utilities for routine drive maintenance: error checking, backup, and defragmentation. Each one gives a message about the last time maintenance was done and has a button to handle the task if it's time again. This makes it pretty easy to keep your computer in tip-top condition, Suzanne. We'll skip the actual task right now and continue our journey through the Explorer. Click OK to keep your new disk label, or click on the Close button to close the dialog box without making any changes. Since you clicked OK, Suzanne, notice the new label for Drive C. Rodeo now appears in the Exploring window. Now let's look at another important task done in the Explorer. Ready, Suzanne? Put your floppy disk into this drive so we can copy some files to it. Viewers, if your floppy disk is not already formatted, we'll need to take care of that detail first.
Professor, how do I format a disk in Windows 95? That used to be in the File Manager.
Good question, Suzanne. That's another change in Windows 95. Actually, the formatting process remains the same, but you find it in the My Computer window now. With your floppy disk in the appropriate drive, click on the Explorer Windows Restore button. Once done, click on the My Computer caption. Is your disk in the drive? Okay. Click once on that drive icon in the My Computer window just to select it, but not open a window. Now open the File menu and select Format. The dialog box gives you the usual file formatting options, including a space to label the disk. Notice that the Quick Format option now tells you that it will simply erase the disk. Windows 95 actually selects this command when the inserted disk is already formatted. Suzanne, your disk is already formatted and empty of any files, so we'll leave it as is. For those of you who want to format or reformat your floppy disk, do so now by clicking on the desired format option, then on the Start button. If you don't want to format your floppy disk, just click on the Close button. Before we go any further, let's tidy up the screen a little. Can you find a different way to close some windows we have open right now? Let's do the easy one first. Use the X button on the caption bar to close the Format window for the floppy drive. You can choose Close from the File menu to close the My Computer window. And here's one I haven't mentioned. Right button click on the Recycle Bin button on the taskbar, Suzanne. And within the pop-up menu, select Close. With that done, let's take a more extensive trip on the Explorer. Now we're ready to perform a few basic file management tasks that are managed by the Explorer. We'll start by copying some files onto the floppy disk. Open up the Start menu, Suzanne. Select Programs and select Windows Explorer. We now have two Explorer windows open. It isn't necessary to have two of them open to perform file tasks. However, this method does allow us to see the contents of two open folders or drives at one time. Suzanne, let's rearrange these windows on the desktop. Move your mouse to the taskbar and click the right mouse button, then choose the Tile Horizontally option. Both top and bottom windows give us a view of the C drive. We want to see the contents of the floppy drive. On the left side of the bottom window, Click on the floppy drive where your disk is located. That's A on your computer, Suzanne. Viewers, use the scroll bar if needed to find the floppy drive that has your disk. Then click on it so you can see its contents. Suzanne's disk is empty, so there are no files displayed in the right side of this window. Now click on the top Explorer window and select the Windows folder. You may need to use the scroll bar to find it. Use the right scroll bar to bring the FAQ file into view. Everyone should have basically the same files and folders as Suzanne, since these images and routines are part of the Windows program. There it is, Suzanne. This file contains frequently asked questions. Single-click on FAQ to select it. Don't double-click it, or you'll open it. Now look at the status bar, Suzanne. It tells us that this file is 39.5 kilobytes in size. Your floppy disk has 1.44 megs of storage space, so this file will easily fit on it. Drag and drop copy is really easy. Just drag the file you want, the FAQ file, Suzanne, then drag it to its new location, which in this case is the blank floppy disk in drive A. When you release the mouse button, a graphic will appear showing the file flying from one location to the other. If you want to move the file rather than making a copy, hold down the Control key while you drag. We don't need to do this here, but I do want to show you a safety feature, Suzanne. Drag the FAQ file from the C drive to the A drive again. When you release the mouse button, a warning box appears to make sure you really intend to copy over an existing file. The last date modified is a good indication as to which file you want to keep. Here, of course, they're both the same date, so we don't need to copy over the existing file. Click on No, Suzanne. Drag and drop copies are very easy, but as usual, in Windows we have several ways to copy or move files. Scroll up and click the right mouse button on the desktop GRP file located within the Windows folder. Once that file is in view, click using your right mouse button on that file name. And within the pop-up menu, click on the Send To command. Once the Send To dialog box appears on screen, simply click on the appropriate drive letter for your floppy drive. Isn't that easy? We don't need to have two windows open to use the Send To command or to click and drag a file from one directory to another. However, it does help us to see the contents of the destination location. Let's remove the second Explorer window. First, pull down the File menu and select the Close option. Once done, click the right mouse button on the Exploring Taskbar button and choose Maximize. Now that we know how to copy files, let's create one of Windows 95's most important organizational tools, the folder. As you can see in this window, file folders are the containers that hold groups of files. Let's make our own folder, Suzanne, then copy the two files on our floppy drive to it. First, click on the C drive icon within this window. Now pull down the File menu and select New and Folder. And there's our new folder. The title is highlighted. Now let's rename it something other than New Folder. You may have noticed that some of the file folders have names longer than the old DOS limitation of 8 characters. Count them, Suzanne. Even the default folder title, New Folder, is more than 8 characters, and it has spaces as well. Let's call this folder My Own Stuff. Type that in, Suzanne. We can now use file names and folder names that are long enough to be informative, up to 255 characters if you want. Behind the scenes, Windows 95 handles the translation to the shorter, less informative 8-character files that are compatible with earlier programs. Now, how do you suppose you might put the two files into the folder, Suzanne?
Well, I'll just drag them to the folder, Professor.
That's all you have to do, Suzanne. But let me show you a little shortcut for moving several files at once. First, click on the A drive. Then, click on the desktop file. Now hold the Shift key down and click the FAQ file. With both files selected, drag either icon to the folder so both files are copied at once. Good! Now click on the My Stuff folder so we can see its contents. See how the folder opens? Its contents are displayed in the right window to reveal the two files we just copied. Moving files between disks like we did between the hard drive and your floppy disk is pretty much the same kind of drag and drop operation as in earlier versions of Windows, Suzanne. The procedure is the same for document files, But there's a new twist for program or command files. This leads us to a new feature called shortcuts. Let's see how we can use these to cut through our forest of files. When you make a copy of an executable file, that's a program or command file, Suzanne, within the same disk, you get a shortcut instead of a copy. A shortcut in Windows 95 is simply an alias, or a pointer to the original file location. The pointer is stored in the new location, but points to the program file's original hard disk location. The pointer takes much less space than an entire copy of the program, so the shortcut saves disk space. Shortcuts can give you quick access to a program you use frequently without searching through lots of folders or submenus. Let's make one, Suzanne. Let's create a shortcut within my own folder to give us quick access to the solitaire game. There are several ways to make shortcuts. One way to create a shortcut is to put a folder on the desktop. Our desktop is covered up right now by the Explorer window, so let's click the right mouse button on the Exploring Taskbar button and click on Restore. Now right-click on My Own Stuff folder and drag it down onto the desktop. Release your mouse button. And look at the choices on this menu. You can move the file, copy the file, or create a shortcut. Click on Create Shortcut. Now you have a shortcut copy of your folder on the desktop and the original file still in its hard drive location. The little bent arrow in the corner of the file folder icon indicates a shortcut. Shortcut to My Own Stuff is a very long file name, Suzanne. Perhaps you'd like something a little shorter. Right-click on the shortcut folder and select Rename down near the bottom of the menu. What would you like to call it? How about your name? The blue highlight indicates that the text is already selected, so just start typing to make the change. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? You can rename the shortcut or the folder it accesses anytime you want. Having your own personal folder comes in handy for many uses, such as accessing your favorite word processor, utility programs, or work files. Of course, you'll want to be judicious about putting too many shortcuts on the desktop. Having a lot of icons on your desktop kind of defeats its purpose, don't you think? Now let's use the Explorer to search for an executable or an existing shortcut for the solitaire game. Pull down the Tools menu and move through Find to select Files or Folders, Suzanne. Click the Advanced tab and be sure that the Of Type selection is All Files and Folders. Viewers, use the pull-down arrow to change your selection if necessary. Now click on the Name and Location tab. Then click on the Named block and type SOLI**. As in DOS, the asterisk is a wildcard character that will select any characters rather than requiring an exact match. The Look-in block should show your hard drive. Viewers, use the pull-down arrow to change the selection if necessary. I think we're ready, Suzanne. Click the Find Now button. The little magnifying glass moves around while the system is searching. Well, that's pretty fast. The bottom of the Find window tells us that Solitaire is somewhere on the Start button, and that file is itself a shortcut. Well, now we've found it. Let's make another shortcut in your folder. If the Find window is covering your desktop folder, click on its caption and drag the window out of the way. That's it. Now right-click on the Solitaire icon in the Find window and drag it up onto your desktop folder, Suzanne. Release the button and select Create Shortcut here. You can close the Find window now. Just click the X. And double-click on your folder. And there are your files, including a shortcut for the Solitaire game. If you double-click on the Solitaire shortcut icon, the Solitaire game will open. And if you open Solitaire, close it using the game menu's Exit command. Notice that the window caption is the name of your actual folder, My Own Stuff, even though the shortcut icon on the desktop is named Suzanne. Now, before you start playing Solitaire, Suzanne, let's tidy things up a bit. I don't think you really need the desktop or FAQ files in your folder. Let's throw them away. Click on the desktop icon, Suzanne. Open the File menu and select Delete. The Confirm File Delete dialog box gives one chance to change your mind. Are you sure? Click Yes, and there it goes. Did you remember that deleted files go to the recycle bin? Let's take a look. Move your exploring window out of the way so you can see your recycle bin. Notice that the recycle bin has some paper sticking out of the top. This tells us that there are files in the recycle bin. Double-click the recycle bin icon, Suzanne. There you are, the desktop file is still listed. Viewers, you may have other files listed if your computer has been used before this lesson. Remember, the bin holds all deleted files until it gets full, then removes the oldest ones first. If you need to free up some disk space, you can empty the recycle bin. Click the File menu, Suzanne. The Empty Recycle Bin command is right on top. Don't use it now, but that's where you find it when you need it. Click Close, Suzanne, to close the recycle bin window. You can also put files directly into the recycle bin by dragging them, just like we did when we were copying. Do that with the FAQ file, Suzanne. Just drag it from your desktop window over to the recycle bin. Nice work, Suzanne. You've seen how to use the Explorer for several kinds of file operations, and you have your own desktop folder to store shortcuts for your favorite programs. Time to move on, I think. Go ahead and close the desktop window. We're ready to look at controlling multimedia. Multimedia is hot news in computing these days. It refers to the combination of several different mediums for presenting information. We have the standard text and graphics plus moving videos and sounds as well. This creates a richer informational environment where we can use more of our senses to understand what's going on. Windows 95 has collected controls for multimedia devices under one icon. Let's check them out. Suzanne, we control our multimedia settings using the options within the control panel. We could exit out of the Explorer and open up the control panel through the Start menu, but why waste time? Let's just open up from here. First, maximize the Explorer window. Then scroll down the left side window, if you need to, until you can see the control panel folder. Once it is in view, click on it. The right-hand window now shows the icons for various components of your computer. We've seen this window before when we opened it from the Start menu Settings command. This time, we'll explore some additional settings that relate to new Windows multimedia features. Click the multimedia icon, Suzanne.
Wow, Professor, I don't know very much about this multimedia stuff. What do I do with all these settings?
I don't think this lesson is the place to start explaining the details of multimedia, Suzanne, so for now, let's just examine the tab cards to get a feel for what's included in multimedia. The first card is for audio controls, and even without a lot of technical knowledge, you can see that the options include volume controls and device selections. This is where you can set the volume for your computer speakers, and also for a microphone if you have one connected to your system. The second tab is video. Click there, Suzanne. This controls how video clips will appear in the computer screen. Click the pull-down arrow, Suzanne, in the Show Video In menu. And select Double Original Size. The sample view shows you how the change will appear on your screen. Suzanne's view looks a little ragged because her screen resolution isn't fine enough to smooth out the edges of the image. Remember that this is not a multimedia authoring program. These just control how multimedia programs will run in Windows 95. Click the next tab, Suzanne. MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. These are instruments like electronic keyboards that work through the computer. Suzanne's MIDI scheme and configuration commands aren't highlighted because she doesn't have any MIDI devices connected to her system. But we can see once again that these controls manage the output through the computer. The next tab is CD Music. Click that, Suzanne. Again, this controls the volume, but notice the slider bar for headphones. Yes, if you have a jack, you can play your music CDs on the computer and listen with headphones. Click on the final tab, Advanced, Suzanne. This opens a list of device drivers for additional multimedia devices that might be added to your computer. The drivers are programs that translate computer commands for the specific characteristics of each device and interpret input from that device back to the computer. It's a whole new world, Suzanne, and lots of new things to learn. This list gives you an idea of the range of devices included in multimedia, and this is the place to start with the controls for your computer. click Cancel to close this window. Well, we've learned a lot about Windows 95, Suzanne. I hope you'll learn more from me, the video professor, in future lessons, and thanks, and we'll see you next time. Happy computing! For this lesson, you'll need a few things. 2 new 5 1/4 or 3 1/2 inch floppy disks. We assume you have a computer with at least one floppy disk drive and a hard drive with DOS 5.0 or higher installed, and some kind of software program like a word processor already installed. We also assume you have a mouse. Before going further, I'd like to introduce you to my student helper, Lisa. Ready to get started, Lisa?
Hello, Professor. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, let's start off by learning the basics of how a computer works. You've probably heard the words hardware and software before. Well, the information on the floppy and hard disk is referred to as software. The computer parts such as the monitor, CPU, keyboard, and printer are referred to as hardware. The main part of the system is the CPU, which stands for Central Processing Unit. It contains all these computer chips and circuit boards and is the factory for processing data. It is the brains of the system. The one bank of chips I would like to point out here is the RAM chips, which stands for Random Access Memory. These chips take into their memory information or data that is stored on a floppy or hard disk and keeps it there while you are using it. For example, if you were to load a game into the computer, the information on your game disk would be put into the RAM chip so you could play the game. The thing to remember here is once you turn the computer off, the information stored in these chips is lost. The information on your disk, however, is permanent. So when you want to play the game, you just load it into the computer again. The keyboard is the main component for entering data into the system. It is similar to a typewriter, however, the added keys makes it possible to do many more commands. All keyboards have the same types of keys, but vary as to where these keys are located. They all have function keys which can be located on the left of the keyboard or along the top. These keys, usually marked with an F on them, have many purposes. Each program you run will use them in different ways. Some programs come with templates that fit over these keys, showing what they are used for. All keyboards have arrow keys which help you point and move to different parts of the computer screen. The Enter key, sometimes referred to as the return key, is the most used key of all. It usually has a bent arrow on it. This key is used to tell the computer to accept commands we want it to do. We will demonstrate how some of these keys work when we have something on our screen to work with. The monitor is where you see displayed the programs and data that is entered into the computer. They vary widely as to the resolution, meaning the sharpness of the image and how many colors they can display. Monochrome monitors have one color, and some monitors can display millions of colors. Printers also vary widely. The 3 basic styles are dot matrix, which print with little dots and makes letters look a little ragged. These printers have the capability to print graphic designs. Daisy wheel printers, also referred to as letter quality printers, print with solid letters like a typewriter and prints high quality letters, but is limited to one style and size of its letters. The laser printers also print very high quality letters, but unlike the daisy wheel, can print all different sizes and styles of letters and print out all kinds of graphic designs. All of these components are worthless without programs to run with them. The programs that allow you to do things with a computer are always originally stored on a floppy disk. A floppy disk comes in 2 different sizes, 5 1/4 and 3 1/2 inch. They get the name floppy because the actual disk is floppy, even though the floppy disk in the 3 1/2 inch size is enclosed in a hard case. These disks hold lots and lots of information. It's kind of like the way a cassette works, which stores and plays sound. The diskette stores and plays data. When inserted into the computer can read the information on that disk and display it on the screen. Games, computer programs, and even letters to a friend are all stored on these disks and are referred to as data. Taking care not to damage a disk is very important. You should always put them in their protective sleeve and store them in a safe place. A hard shell, dust-free container is best. Keep away from heat and sunlight, drinks and cigarette smoke, magnetic sources such as telephones and TV sets, physical damage such as bending them, and don't touch the exposed area of the disk. There is another type of disk called a hard disk. The hard disk is a much thicker disk, usually located inside the computer itself, and can hold many, many times the data a floppy disk can hold. And a newer disk called the CD-ROM disk can hold even more data than the hard disk. Other than the speed and amount of information these disks hold, there is no difference in the way information is stored on them. Since the hard disk drive are internally mounted and can hold much more data than floppies, it has become the practice to take information stored on floppy disk, such as computer programs, and store them on the hard disk. To keep these stored programs separated on the hard drive, you create what is called directories for each of these programs so you can tell them apart. The first thing you need to store on your hard disk is DOS, and when you installed DOS 5.0, it created its own directory on the hard drive. Again, we assume your computer already has DOS 5.0 installed on your hard disk. If you have an earlier version of DOS and are upgrading to DOS 5.0 and haven't installed it yet, simply put your installed disk in drive A. Type install at the A prompt, enter, and follow the directions. Answer yes to let DOS 5.0 make the changes it wants to make to your computer's configuration. If you are familiar with DOS and are upgrading to DOS 5.0, you may want to view my tape Upgrading to DOS 5.0, where we cover what's new with the program. DOS stands for Disk Operating System and is the program that makes your computer work. In other words, you cannot run any software programs on your computer without first loading DOS. And what is a disk operating system? Quite simply, an operating system is a translator. You see, you have your computer hardware, that is the CPU, monitor, and keyboard, and you have your software, that is the word processors, games, or other programs. The operating system takes instructions from these programs and translates them into instructions the hardware can understand. Computers are very simple machines. They need system software such as DOS to transform high-level commands like copy this letter into simpler instructions the computer can understand. Okay, Lisa, let's turn the computer on. Make sure to turn your monitor on too. With DOS already installed on your hard disk, this is all you need to do. This starting action is also called booting up the computer. The disk drive will activate and you will see a light blinking on the hard drive as DOS is copied from the hard drive into the system memory or RAM in the CPU. You will hear a beep in a few seconds. Some information about your DOS and computer system will appear at the top of your screen. You may then see a request for the date and time. Some computers are set up with an internal system for keeping track of this automatically, so you won't see this. You can skip entering the date and time by hitting the return enter key twice. Let's do that. Simply press the enter key twice. That is the one with the bent arrow on it. I must emphasize that entering the date is very important. Once you've started working with programs and documents on your computer, you should now see a C:, followed by a backslash and a greater than sign, followed by a short blinking line. Don't worry if yours looks a little different. This is known as the command line or the DOS prompt. If you don't see this, your computer has probably been set up to start running some sort of shell or software program. You need to exit any of these programs and join us at the C prompt. Most of these programs will tell you somewhere on the screen how to exit or have a file menu where exit will be located. So we can all be starting at the same place. Everyone type CD / and enter. This action takes us to the root directory. We'll discuss what we just did later. With the C prompt displayed, DOS is waiting for you to enter a command. There are all kinds of commands you can type here to ask DOS to do different things. We'll cover some of these commands, but first let's see how to enter them. Notice the blinking line after the prompt. This line is called the cursor and marks the spot on the screen where information or data will be placed when you start typing. Lisa, try typing your name. Notice how the cursor moves over a bit to mark where each letter will show up next. If you make a mistake here, you can correct it using the backspace key, which is usually located near the top right area of your keyboard. It has a straight arrow pointed to the left on it and sometimes has the word back on it. Try this. Hold down the G key for a couple of seconds. Notice how the letter keeps repeating itself. Now press the backspace key and notice how the characters are erased one at a time from the cursor position to the left. Okay, hold the backspace key down until all the text is erased and we are back to the C greater than sign. The current drive that is shown at the DOS prompt, drive C in our case, is called the default drive. Default is a computer expression meaning until you tell DOS otherwise, every action you perform will go to or come from the default or C drive like a home base. For example, a default color could be a background color you wanted to have on the screen every time you wrote a letter. Then, every time you started your word processor to write that letter, the screen would change or default to that color. If we had an A prompt on the screen, all our information would default to or from our A drive. Here is how you can change the default drive. You must first insert any kind of program disk or disk you know contains some sort of data in the A drive. If you use a new disk, you won't see any results because it doesn't contain any data yet. You are now looking at a floppy disk drive which is located on the CPU. The floppy disk drive has an opening for the disk to go into and a little handle called a drive door. On a single drive system, there is no problem finding drive A because it can only be drive A. But on a two-drive system referred to as a dual drive system, the second drive is drive B. The A drive is usually the top drive, but not always. You may have to check with someone to make sure which is drive A. To insert the disk in the drive correctly, make sure you have the smooth side up, the side with a label. Make sure the end with the disk exposed in the oval hole goes in first. And close the drive door. At the C prompt, type A: and press enter. We now see our DOS prompt is A:, and all data will be written to or read from our new default drive, the A drive. Okay, everyone type C:, enter, and we are back to our C drive. It's possible your computer's hard drive is partitioned into more drive names. Your system may have a D drive and possibly an E drive. If you're not sure, you can find out by typing D or E: and pressing enter. If not, you'll get a message saying invalid drive specification and return to the active drive. You can have up to 26 different drives. Again, at the C prompt, DOS is waiting for us to give it a command. Usually you would be starting some kind of program like a word processor here, but this lesson is about learning what DOS does, so let's take a look at some DOS commands. One of the most used is dir, which stands for directory. Let's see what entering dir at the prompt will do. Lisa, type dir. Remember, if you make a mistake, you can press the backspace key one or more times to correct it. Now press the enter key. The dir command displays a list of all of the files contained in the root directory on the C drive. Remember, we said the drive can be divided up into different directories. The root directory will display these. Notice all the file names followed by the word dir in brackets. Those are your directories. The dir command is used to show you the files contained in directories and or floppy disks. Suppose you have a floppy disk hanging around and you wanted to find out what information it contained. Let's try it. You should still have the program or data disk we had you get earlier in drive A. Now type A: and enter to tell DOS to look at that drive and type dir and enter. We put in a word processing program in our A drive and are now looking at the files on that disk. Type C: and enter. Viewers, watch as we look at another directory. If you have a large number of files on a diskette, DOS will scroll directly to the end. Lisa, did you notice that as the files went racing by, that there were many more files than we could see in this directory? Let's look at a variation of the directory command to fix this. But first, let's clear the screen. We do this using the CLS command, which stands for clear screen. Go ahead and type CLS and press enter. This clears the screen of all information and returns you to the prompt. We'll be doing this throughout the lesson to make things easier to see, so don't be worried if our screens don't always look alike. Let's add the /p option to our dir command. After the dir command, type /p as you see now. When the Enter key is pressed, watch what happens. The screen stops at each screen full. Notice the message. Press any key to continue. To advance the listing, simply press any key until the entire directory is seen. Again, notice the names with the dir beside them. Viewers, your display will look different than ours here, but the principle is the same. The programs you have on your computer should show here with the dir beside them. Typing cd / and the directory name will take you to that directory. The CD stands for Change Directory. Let's try that to look at the files in the DOS directory. Viewers, look in your root directory listing to make sure you have a DOS directory. If you don't, your DOS may be residing in your root directory. Also, your DOS directory may be written as DOS 5 or DOS 5.0. If it is, you need to type our next command with the same name that shows in your directory. Lisa, type cd / DOS and enter. This takes us to the DOS directory on the C drive. Again, viewers, if you come up with an invalid directory here, your DOS is probably stored in your root directory or under a different name like DOS 5 or DOS 5.0. If you don't see a DOS directory, just stay where you are. If you do see a directory, you need to type cd / and the directory name. If your prompt just shows the C greater than sign instead of the C : /DOS like ours, type prompt, a space, $P, $G, and enter. This tells DOS to display the active directory name on the command line. Okay, everyone, type dir /P and enter, and you now see the files in the DOS directory. Now let's get a better idea about what these files are. The first column displays the name of each file. Files are the computer's way of organizing information on a disk. Hard and floppy disks hold files just like a filing cabinet you would see in an office or library. Think of each disk or directory as a drawer in a filing cabinet. Suppose this drawer contained a word processing program. When you open the drawer, you can see all the files that it contains, just like the dir command does to look at the disk or directory files. Now, suppose that in this filing drawer, you had a letter to a friend. All you would do to see it is open that file. The same is true for the files on the disk. If you had a letter to a friend, all you would do to see it is open that file. This is an oversimplified explanation because each file has certain procedures that need to be followed to open that file. The files you see on this DOS directory are separate programs that the computer needs to operate and to perform certain functions. For example, the file diskcopy.com is a program which makes exact copies of files from one diskette to another. Other disks or directories may contain files that are lists of information like names and addresses, or they may be word processing documents like your letter to a friend. Files are either programs or data. DOS has certain rules about file names. A file name can only be 1 to 8 characters long with an optional extension. An extension is a period followed by 1 to 3 characters. The period does not show up in this file listing. A file name can include the letters A through Z and digits 0 through 9. You can use most of the special character symbols like $signs, %signs, or the underscore character, but there can be no spaces between characters. Oh, one more thing. Each file must have its own unique file name and extension. No two files in the same directory or on the same diskette can have the same file name and extension. The extensions must be different if the file names are the same, and the file names must be different if the extensions are the same. As you can see on the screen, there are files with the extensions EXE, COM, and SYS. These extensions are usually abbreviations that tell what kind of file it is. For example, EXE stands for execution. COM is a command file. SYS is a system file. Some word processors automatically name all documents with a DOC extension. LTR is an extension that is often used to designate a letter. There are many other types of extensions. Some programs add their own, and others let you create them. Like the letter to your friend, you could enter under the file name and extension friend.ltr. Generally, if a file name has an extension, you must include it when you refer to that file. The next part of the file list displays the file size, which is measured in bytes. This part of the file tells how many bytes the file is taking up on the disk. The word byte is a computer term which is generally regarded to be the same as a character. A character is any letter, number, symbol, or space between them. If you have a floppy disk that holds 360,000 bytes of information, that means it can hold about that many characters or enough letters to make a paperback book of approximately 240 pages. Hard disks come in many sizes. To give you an idea of how many bytes they can hold, a small 20 meg hard drive can hold 20 million bytes of information, or as much information as 55 360K floppy disks. The last part of the file name shows the date and time the file was created or last modified. Remember when we first started the computer, I said it was important to enter the date? Well, here's why. When you create or modify a file, the current date will help you distinguish it from other files, making it easier to keep track of. At the bottom of the file listing, we see how many files are in that directory and how many bytes are free, meaning how many characters can be added to the directory. Let's clear the screen and look at some more variations to our dir command. One is to replace the P with a W. Type dir/W. This will display the directory in columns. Watch. You will notice that this method does not show the file size or the date and time. If you had more than one screen full of files with /W, the /P option can be added here to stop at each screen full. Earlier versions of DOS only had the /P and W switches for looking at directories, but with DOS 5.0, there are many new ways to look at file names, plus a new help command. Lisa, type help, a space, dir, and press enter. Here is our help screen showing all the different switches you can use to display files. We can't show you all of them, but you may want to come back later and play around with the different options. After typing dir, you need to add a /, then the letter for the directory display you want from this section. If you add the A switch, then you need to add one of these letters without a / to display certain kinds of files. If you add the O switch, then you must add any of these letters without a / to see the files sorted in the order you want.
Professor, I understand looking at files on a floppy disk using the dir command, but I'm a little confused looking at the directories on the hard drive.
Lisa, a hard disk can hold many different programs on it. The one program every computer must have is DOS. Other popular programs are word processors for creating text documents. Databases are used to keep track of names and addresses, such as you see in the phone book. Spreadsheets are used to keep track of finances, using numbers like a calculator to show profit and loss. Desktop publishing lets you draw things and design the way you might put a newsletter together. And of course, there are games. Each of these programs list as a directory on the hard drive, and each directory contains its own files. To help keep the programs separate and organized on your hard disk, different directories are created for each. And within these directories, you create more directories or subdirectories to put and organize different types of data created within those programs. In this example, the first directory on the hard disk is called the root directory. This is what DOS looks at when you first boot the computer and get the C prompt. Then DOS has its own directory. Other directories would be for the programs we mentioned earlier. Then each of the programs could have subdirectories of their own. The structure of these directories is referred to as the directory tree, because the different branches from the root directory does resemble a tree. Lisa, type tree, a space, and a \. The \/ tells DOS to display the tree beginning at the root directory. Now press enter. Here is how DOS displays our tree structure. Viewers, yours will look different depending on how your computer is set up. We'll see more of this when we get to the shell. Remember we had you type cd \DOS? That told DOS to look at the DOS directory. Again, the CD stands for Change Directory. To change to any of these directories from the command line, you type cd \, and the name of that directory. It can get a little more complicated than that because to see the files in a subdirectory, you have to enter what DOS calls a path. For example, to see the files of the document subdirectory of the WordPerfect directory, you'd need to type dir c:/wp51/document. This tells DOS to look in the root directory to find the WordPerfect directory, then go to the WordPerfect directory where it can find the document directory and display those files. Let's try that, Lisa. Type dir c:/wp51/document. Enter. And there's our files of the document directory. It's good to understand the principles of how this works, but fortunately selecting directories in the shell, as you'll see in a minute, is a lot easier. Okay, before moving on, we need to create a work disk to practice with. In order to do that, we need to learn about the DOS command format. The reason for this command is a disk must be formatted before it can hold data. You can buy pre-formatted diskettes, but usually you must format new disks. The format command physically prepares the disk to hold data by creating invisible tracks and sectors. This is kind of like an unmarked parking lot. Until the lines are painted on it, cars don't know where to park. These tracks and sectors tell data where to park. The format command also checks for defective spots on the diskette. You need to format a diskette when it is new. However, you can format it again at any time. This is called reformatting. But be warned, reformatting erases any data already on the diskette. DOS 5.0 can retrieve a disk's data, but we won't be covering that in this lesson. Now be careful here. If you are following along with the tape, be sure to follow our instructions carefully. We don't want you to reformat and erase any disk that may be important. A sure way to protect from erasing any disk is to attach what is called a Write Protect tab. Simply cover up the notch on the side of the disk with the tab, and no information can be written over the data already on the disk, while the computer can still get information from the disk. To Write Protect a 3.5-inch disk, slide the little tab so you can see through it. Okay, everyone should still be at the C prompt in the DOS directory. Now remove the disk in Drive A and take the new blank disk we asked you to have ready and put it into Drive A. You can use an old disk, but remember format will erase everything on that disk. Now type format/S, a space, and a colon. This tells DOS to format the disk in the A drive. The /S tells DOS to copy 2 hidden system files we need on this disk. Everyone press enter and notice the message Insert New Diskette in Drive A and press the enter key when ready. With the disk we want to format already in Drive A, press the enter key. The messages and numbers displayed on your screen will vary here depending on the type of system you have. This takes a while, so we'll skip to the end. When DOS finishes formatting, the message Format Complete will appear, and you're asked if you want to enter a volume label to name this disk. We don't need one, so press enter. Now displayed is the bytes of total disk space, the bytes available on disk, and finally, you are asked if you want to format another disk. This message also may include information about bad sectors. We don't want to format the other blank disk we asked you to have for this lesson, so press N for no and enter. Now we have a formatted diskette, and it is ready to hold information. Before we go to the DOS shell, I'd like to demonstrate the copy command from the DOS prompt to make sure you understand the principles of how DOS works. Lisa, make sure you are at the C:\DOS prompt. Let's copy this file, command.com, from our DOS directory to our disk in A drive. Type copy space C:\command.com space A:. The C drive is the source drive where our command.com command is located, and the A is the destination or drive we want to copy our command.com file to. It is source, destination, or from, to. Actually, you don't need the C colon in this command since we are in that directory to start with. But it is always a good idea to add it to make sure there are no mistakes. Okay, everyone press enter. When the file is copied, the one file's copied message will appear. To check and see that our command.com file was copied, type dir a space a colon, which tells DOS to look at the directory for the disk in drive A, but not to leave the C drive. Press enter, and there's our command.com file on the disk in drive A. Notice our prompt is still C:\DOS. Now that we have an understanding of what files are and how DOS commands work from the command line, let's learn about the shell. Lisa, type DOS shell, and let's add /G, which tells the shell to go into graphics mode, and press enter. Notice the shell reading all the files and directories as it comes on screen. The DOS shell is a graphical environment, which means commands, directories, and file names are visually listed for you to choose and manipulate with the keyboard or mouse, instead of having to type out and remember DOS commands and file names. This is how the MS-DOS shell looks when it is first opened. If you previously installed DOS 5.0 and ran the shell, it may look different. If it does, press the function key F10, then V, then F, and our screen should look somewhat the same. The screen is divided into several windows. The title bar displays that this is indeed the MS-DOS shell. The area just below is the menu bar where we can choose commands and different ways of displaying the shell. We'll come back and explore this and the other parts of the screen better after a quick tour. Directly below the menu bar, the active drive is displayed. This should be a C:\. Then there are drive icons which represent all the different drives on your machine that we discussed earlier. Icons are little graphic pictures of things like file folders or disks to help you visually see what you are choosing. The highlighted icon in this display also shows which drive is currently active, C in our case. The next area, Directory Tree, displays the different directories on the C drive, which we saw from the DOS prompt earlier. The window to the right of that displays the files of the selected directory in the tree area. This is like having the dir command we typed earlier always displayed. The bottom area shows the main program list, which allows you to go to the command prompt. You can choose the MS-DOS editor to write text files and MS-DOS QBasic for programming. Last is the Disk Utilities submenu, which allows you to do some disk utilities like the format command we did earlier. To work in any of these areas, it must first be selected to activate it. Lisa, press the Tab key, and the selected area changes from the first area, Drive Icons, to the Directory Tree area. Press Shift-Tab, and the selected area goes back to the Drive Icons. Press Tab twice to move to the File directory. Again, the File area displays the files of the selected directory in the tree area. Notice the title bar becomes highlighted to show this area is now selected. By pressing the Shift and Tab keys together, our selection moves back to the tree area. Lisa, move your mouse around and notice the cursor, now a pointer, moves around the screen in a corresponding manner. Now move it anywhere into the File area and click the left button once, and notice that the area is now the active area. Now move your cursor to the tree area and click anywhere in that box to activate it. Here is where all your directories are displayed. The top shows our root directory for drive C. Under that are all the directories and subdirectories that exist on the C drive.
Professor, what exactly is the difference between a directory and a subdirectory?
Actually, there isn't any. It's all in the way you look at it. This is where this window gets the name tree structure. The C: is the main or root directory. Everything else in this tree structure is a subdirectory of the root directory, and each of these directories can have subdirectories of their own. Click on our desktop publishing program, the Aldus directory, in this window. Notice I said directory instead of subdirectory. That is because when it became the current directory, it left its substatus, and any directories that are created in this directory would become a subdirectory until it's activated and becomes the directory. Confusing? Not really. Just think of it like this. You are the son or daughter of your parents. But as you have children, you become the parent. So now you are a child and a parent at the same time. It's all in the way you look at it. Lisa, did you notice when you selected the Aldus directory that the files of that directory were displayed in the Files window? And the title bar now reads Aldus. Now select the DOS directory and notice the DOS files are now displayed in that window. Now click anywhere in the Files area and press the down arrow key until the chkdsk file is highlighted. This is a DOS command to check a disk. With the Files area active and our file selected, move your cursor to File on the menu bar and click on your left mouse button once. Any commands chosen in this file menu will work on our selected check disk file. When an ellipsis, 3 dots, appears after a command, a dialog box will drop down asking for additional information. Lisa, remember we copied a file from the command line earlier. Now let's see how to copy files to our disk in Drive A using the shell. Move your cursor to Copy and click on it. A dialog box appears asking us where we want to copy the selected file to. Type A:, and move your mouse pointer to OK and click once. Let's see if our file did copy. Lisa, move your pointer to the symbol for A drive and click once. Notice the tree area changes to show we are looking at the A drive, and in the Files area are both the files we have copied so far. Lisa, select the C drive again and then select the Files area. We'll do more commands in a minute, but first I want to show you the many ways in which you select items in the shell. Lisa, move your mouse once again to the File menu. While holding the left mouse button down, move the mouse downward. Notice how the highlight moves accordingly through the menu options. When you get to Copy, release the button. The Copy window appears again. This time move your pointer to Cancel and click once. Notice the bottom of the screen has the message F10 for Actions and Shift F9 for Command Prompt. Shift F9 will take you back to the familiar DOS prompt. If you go there, typing Exit will return you to the shell. Lisa, press F10 and notice the main menu now has highlighted or underscored letters in it. This is to show you what letters to press on your keyboard to select options. Press F for File, and our File menu appears. Beside some choices are speed key commands that also select that option, and again the highlighted letters for keyboard users. Lisa, use your down arrow to highlight Copy or press C, the highlighted letter for Copy, and our Copy area appears again. Press Tab until the cursor moves to cancel, and press Enter or hit the Escape key. The same principles work for all areas in the DOS shell. As you can see, you can use both the mouse and the keyboard together. There are usually several ways of doing things, so you have the choice of which one suits you the best.
Professor, what are the little pluses for in the tree area?
If there is a plus in any directory, that means that it contains subdirectories. Lisa, click on a directory with a plus inside, and its subdirectories appear. To close the branch, simply click in the directory box again. Now press the letter D, and the cursor jumps to the first entry starting with the letter D. D-base in our case. Lisa, press the D key again, and the DOS directory is highlighted. Press the Tab key, and the Files area is highlighted. Now press the down arrow to move downward through the file names. Press Page Down to see a new screen full of files. Now type U, and the cursor moves to the first file starting with the letter U. There is one more file search tool mouse users have here, the scroll bars on the right of some areas. Clicking on the arrows at the top or bottom will scroll through the file list. Or you can click anywhere in the scroll box and that portion of the files will be displayed. Lisa, press Control and the / keys, and all the files in this directory are highlighted or selected. Now select the File menu again. Normally you would want to move, copy, or delete our selected group of files. In this case, we only want to show you the File menu commands to select and deselect. So select Deselect All, and our files are back to normal. Lisa, let's look at some other ways to select files.
Move your cursor back into the Files directory and click on a file towards the top of the displayed list. Then, move the cursor down several files. By holding the Shift key down and clicking on the last file, we select not only the first and last files, but all those in between. These files will remain selected even if we leave this directory. To deselect a sequence of files, just select another without using the Shift key. To select a sequence of files with the keyboard, use your arrow keys to select the first file. Then, while holding the Shift key, use your arrow keys to select the remaining files in the group. To select two or more files, not in sequence, select the first file you want, then press Shift F8. The word Add will appear in the status bar. This tells us we can continue to add to this selection with a simple hit of the space bar. First, use the up or down arrow to move to the second file you want, then press the space bar to select it. To select groups of non-contiguous files, click on the first file, then press the Shift key while you click on the last file in the group. To select the next group of files, press and hold down the Control key while you click on the first file name in the next group. Then press and hold down the Control and Shift keys while you click on the last file name in the second group. For the most part, we will just tell you to select options for the rest of this lesson. You can decide which selection method you like best. Before we explore the menu bar, let's turn the Add feature off. First, press Shift F8, then select a single file to deselect our contiguous group of files. Now, Lisa, select the Options menu, which allows you to set up the shell to suit your preferences. By clicking on Confirmation, we are given a new dialog box asking if we want to confirm each file deletion, overwrite, or mouse action. For now, make sure we have an X on every option. Click on OK and open the Option menu again. Lisa, look at Enable Task Swapper and notice we have a little diamond before this command. This shows the command is activated. We'll cover what the Task Swapper does in our Level 2 tape. For now, highlight it and press Enter. This will unselect it. Lisa, once again open the Options menu and notice our diamond is gone. This time select File, Display Options, and another dialog box will appear. Remember our dir command? Under Sort By are some different ways of displaying files in the shell. We'll keep the listing as it is for now, so don't make any changes here. The file defaults to ascending order. Put an X here to change to descending order. Leave the hidden files hidden and make sure there is no X in this box. To look for certain types of files, you type their specifications in the name text box. For example, Lisa, type an asterisk, better known in DOS circles as a star, then a period, then EXE, and press Enter. This action finds all the execution files in the selected directory. Lisa, open the Options menu and select the File Display option again. In the name text box, type star.star and Enter to return to our normal mode.
Professor, I noticed the stars in the Files area before and now in this command. What do they mean?
Lisa, DOS uses the star symbol as a wild card. Just as in a card game where a wild card can represent any card you want it to, the star can represent any file name or extension in DOS. When we typed star.exe, we were telling DOS to display any file with a period .exe extension. Lisa, highlight our WP51 directory. Remember, we talked about paths earlier. If you look at the title bar for our Files window, you now see the path DOS took to display these files. This includes the name of the active drive, the directory name, which is the highlighted directory in the tree area, and the star.star, which means display all the files and their extensions. DOS uses the backslash to separate the different directions the path is taking. Now, Lisa, click on the plus on the WP51 directory and highlight the document subdirectory. Now look at the title bar of the Files area. Reading this backwards may help.
We are looking at all the files and extensions represented by the star of the document subdirectory located in the WP51 or WordPerfect directory, which is located on drive C. It is important to understand how paths work. Fortunately, when using the shell, there are only a few command options where you need to know how to enter the correct path to accomplish that option. Paths are usually already displayed for you to work with, so you don't need to know how to type them out for every little command. Now open the View menu. In this pull-down menu, we have several ways of displaying the way we can look at files in the shell. The Program File List option is grayed out because it is already selected. Viewers, when you see an option grayed out, it means the option is not available to choose at this time because it is already selected, or it is just plain not available for use at this time. Lisa, select the All Files option. This option shows you all the files on your C drive in alphabetical order. This can show you any duplicate copies of programs and files that may exist in different directories. Lisa, open the View menu again and select the Dual File option. Sometimes you want dual file list so you can copy from one place to another and see the source and destination on the same screen. Let's see how this works. From the top window, select the Drive A icon. Now our top window shows our disk in Drive A, and the bottom shows our hard disk for Drive C. Lisa, make sure the DOS directory is highlighted in the bottom tree area. Then select about 5 files from the Files area, making sure to include the CHK-DSK file. That's right, select the first file by clicking on it, then hold the Shift key and click on the last. We could go to the File menu and choose Copy, but I'd like to show you an easier way to do this. Press and hold down your left mouse button anywhere in the selected files. While holding the mouse button, press and hold down your Control key. Now move your mouse pointer out of the Files area toward the top tree area where the A drive is still displayed. Notice the pointer changes to an icon representing files. Put the icon on top of the A and release both the Control key and mouse button. A dialog box opens asking if we are sure we want to copy these files. Answer yes, and our selected files will copy to our disk in Drive A.
What's this, Professor? It's asking if I want to replace my check disk file.
Remember I said earlier that no two files can have the same file name. Well, DOS sees there is already a file with that name and wants to know if you want to overwrite it or keep the original. Since they are both the same file, say yes. And there are all the files now copied to our disk in Drive A. Sometimes you want to move files from one place to another. For instance, to move old files from a crowded directory to a floppy disk to make more room on your hard drive. This move option is in the Files menu, but the shell offers an even easier way. Lisa, select a few files in the Files area for our disk in Drive A. Click and hold your left mouse button down. This time, without the Control key, move the mouse pointer on the A in the tree area and drop the files there simply by releasing the mouse button. A dialog box appears asking if you are sure you want to move these files. We definitely don't need to do this since this would just move them back to where we got them from, so answer no. Viewers, there are a number of ways of doing things in the DOS shell. If you are not comfortable with using the mouse and keyboard yet, you may want to stop the tape at this time and practice the various ways of moving and selecting items. You needn't worry about doing anything wrong while exploring the menu bar and its dialog boxes. As long as you click the cancel button or press escape, nothing will happen and you can continue looking around. If you have any questions about any section of the DOS shell, opening the Help menu can help you find answers to your questions. Now let's look at the disk copy command. It is always a good idea to make a copy of all your disks containing software programs and using them instead of the originals. We will use the disk copy command to make these copies. The disk copy command is a little different than the copy command because it will make an exact copy of everything from one floppy disk to another floppy disk, including the format. In other words, if you use the disk copy command, you don't have to format a new diskette before you copy files to it. Disk copy will not work for copying files to or from the hard disk. Its purpose is to make exact copies of floppy disk. Lisa, in the View menu, select the Program File List. Then go to the main window and select Disk Utilities. Now select Disk Copy, and a dialog box opens asking you to enter the source and the destination drives. The default is A to B. Simply change your B colon to A colon if your disk drives aren't the same type and click OK. Notice DOS drops you out of the shell. You are now prompted to insert the source disk in drive A. We're going to copy our disk in drive A, and it's already there. If you wanted to copy a different disk, you would put that disk in drive A. Press any key and DOS reads the data on that disk and prompts you to put the destination disk in the appropriate drive. Let's use the new disk we have not formatted now. Remember, Disk Copy copies the format along with the files. Also remember, if you have any data on your destination disk, it will be erased. Everyone press Enter when ready. You may be asked to switch disk a few times, copying from and to your A drive. After a short time, we see a prompt asking you if you want to copy another disk. Press N for no, and press any key to return to the shell so we can move on to deleting files. The delete command is another important DOS command. This is the command to make a file or files vanish from the disk. Perhaps you need to remove old documents you no longer need. With the disk we just did, Disk Copy 2, in drive A, select any files on top of the command.com. Now select the File menu and then the option Delete. A dialog box appears displaying the first file we want deleted and asks if we want to delete this file. Answer yes, and it is gone. Here's an even faster way to delete files. Select all the files under command.com and simply press the delete key. Click on OK and answer yes to delete all the files. Be very careful with the delete command. It's possible to lose files you really wanted to keep. DOS 5.0 now has an undelete command, but we won't have time to cover that in this lesson. Here's a trick you should know about. Sooner or later your computer will get stuck or freeze up, and you won't be able to get it to do anything. There are many ways that this can happen. If you get stuck and cannot get your computer going again, rather than turning it off and starting over, you can warm boot the computer. A warm boot recycles the machine much like turning it off and then on, but much faster. To warm boot your computer, hit the Control, Alt, and Delete keys at the same time. You will lose data that wasn't saved to disk if you are in the middle of a program, but if you are really stuck, it's about all you can do to get started again. If by some chance the machine still won't start, you can try using the disk we now have in drive A. What we have left on this disk are the bare bones files needed to boot your computer, command.com and the hidden system files. If you have this problem, putting this disk in drive A and pressing Control, Alt, Delete at the same time should get your computer started so you can figure out what went wrong. So take this disk out and label it DOS Vanilla Boot and keep it in a safe place. Warning: never use an older version of DOS with DOS 5.0 to boot your computer. You could damage the information on your hard disk if you do. Lisa, I want to show you one way of starting a program through the shell. Select the C drive, choose the WP51 directory in the tree area, and then activate the Files area. Every program has a startup or execution file, usually marked with the program name and an EXE or COM extension. When you find this file, simply double-click on it and the program will start. If you have a program made to run with the Windows program, it will not start from the DOS shell. Okay, everyone, if you opened a program, be sure to exit it properly and return to the shell. It is very important to always exit any program before you turn your computer off. This includes the shell. Lisa, choose the File menu and select Exit. Once you have a DOS prompt on the screen, you are safe to turn your computer off. But before we do, I should mention that everything that can be done in the shell can also be done from the command line, and there are several more commands that can only be done from the command line. One of these I want to show you is the help listing. Lisa, type CD /DOS and enter. Now type help and press enter. Here is a list of all the DOS commands which DOS has help for. Pressing enter will scroll the rest of the commands. Now type help, a space, and format, and enter. DOS displays information on the format command. Typing help and any DOS command will give you information on that command. Again, with us back at the prompt, we are safe to turn the computer off. Well, that's all the time we have for this lesson. Is that all there is to DOS? No, there's a lot more to know about DOS. My tapes on learning DOS Level 2 and 3 will take you through the steps you need to know to help you understand and master your computer as you glide it along. Entering text in WordPerfect is like typing on a typewriter with two differences. Just as when we use the spacebar to cross the page, when your cursor reaches the right margin, WordPerfect starts a new line. This is called word wrap. Press return or enter only when you want to begin a new paragraph or end a line, for example, at the end of an address. If you make a mistake while typing, use the backspace key to make corrections. It has an arrow pointed to the left on it and will sometimes say back or backspace. It deletes the previous character and moves the cursor back one space. Type in "We are learning WordPerfect." Linda, you have a typo here, so backspace 6 times. Now enter the correct spelling. You can also backspace a word at a time by holding down the Control key and pressing backspace. Linda, hold down the backspace key and watch as it quickly erases the characters. With a clear screen, we are ready to type a familiar document. Type it just as you see it, mistakes and all. The arrow keys can also move the cursor in the direction that the arrows point, one position each time it is pressed. Press the left arrow several times and the cursor moves left that many spaces. As you press the right arrow key, notice in the lower right that the position in inches changes. Now press the up arrow and then the down arrow and watch the corresponding change. Now let's use these cursor movements to help us edit our document. Press home, up arrow to cursor to the top of the text. In scanning the first line, it appears that we have a double S in Fathers. Position the mouse pointer on the second S in Fathers and click the mouse button. This will put the cursor there. The delete key pressed once erases the character where the cursor is located. Do that, Linda. Holding it down would keep erasing the characters to the right. Whoops, is that proposition? Place your mouse cursor on the letter T in this word and click the mouse. WordPerfect's editing default is set for insert mode, meaning that we can simply type in or insert missing letters. Enter the letters OSI. Notice how each new letter moves the old characters to the right. Do the same thing with the missing space in. Now place your mouse pointer on the M in much and hold down button 1. Move the pointer to the end of the word the. Notice that down in the lower left corner of the screen, the words block on are flashing and the text is highlighted. This tells you that you are selecting this section for an action. This is called blocking text. Now pull down the Edit menu and click on Delete. You are asked if you want to delete this block. Click on Yes, and the text is gone. But WordPerfect has a built-in dictionary of 80,000 words called Spell. It works efficiently wherever you are in the text. Just select Spell from the Tools menu. You can spell check the single word that your cursor is on by clicking on the status line selection word. Check the words on a single page by clicking on Page, useful when you are working on a multi-page document and only need to check one page at a time. Most often you will want to check the first entire draft by clicking on Document. Let's do that. WordPerfect detects that continent is misspelled and displays what it thinks is most likely the correct spelling. Option A tells us that the highlighted word could be spelled C-O-N-T-I-N-E-N-T. Let's see if our thesaurus can add some verbal zip. Place your cursor on any letter in the word speech. Select thesaurus from the Tools menu. Of the available synonyms to the word speech, the word address strikes us as appropriate. To replace the word, click on Replace Word. Then press the letter A, the letter next to address. Address inserts in place of the original. Now put your cursor on the word. Now let's make the author a distinctive boldface. Pull down the font menu. Under Appearance, select Bold. Now everything that you highlighted will be in boldface. Don't worry if your color to indicate bold is different than ours. Let's finish with our editorial comment, but underline it. Block mark the editorial comment. Our cursor highlights Current Directory, which represents the directory we are in. You can also select the file you want by clicking on it with the mouse. Once your file has been selected, the bottom of the screen displays the many options you have to manipulate that file. Let's cover a few. Retrieve brings to your screen that file for you to continue to work on. You must have fully exited any other document you may have been working on, or you'll be asked if you want to add the new document to it. Delete allows you to remove unwanted files. You'll always be asked if you are sure. Move Rename allows you to move and change your file name. Print will send the selected file to your printer. Look gives you the opportunity to quickly look at. I often use macros while word processing to save valuable time. For example, in this lesson I had to type the words WordPerfect 5.1 in boldface many times, so I created a macro to do the task for me. Claire, press Alt-W for me and watch what happens. The words appear on the screen as if they had been typed. So anytime I want to insert WordPerfect 5.1, I press Alt-W.
Some of the most popular word processors Video Professor has training tapes on are WordPerfect, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Works, Multimate, WordStar, PFS First Choice, and AppleWorks. Now let's look at spreadsheet programs. The most common use of the spreadsheet is to keep track of personal and business finances. They also can do database-type functions, which we'll show you in a minute. Here are some excerpts from the Video Professor's tape on Lotus 123.
By the way, while we're waiting for this program to load, perhaps you might like to know what Lotus and 123 all mean. Well, Lotus is the name of the company. Its full name is Lotus Development Corporation. Each of the numbers 1, 2, and 3 stands for the three functions this program will perform for you. The program is referred to as an integrated program because it will allow you to create spreadsheets which are similar to accountants' worksheets, but they have a memory. Then you can create graphs from the information in the spreadsheet. Graphs and pie charts are great tools for showing business information. Finally, you can create a database in 123. A database is a way of collecting information and then sorting it like you would in a phone book. The wonderful thing about 123's database is that if you know how to use the spreadsheet, the database is very easy to learn. This is where we have been headed, the screen where you do most of your work. Let's take a look around and see what this all means. See the letters A through H on the screen? These are called columns. There are 256 columns in 123. They are labeled A through IV. The numbers down the left side of the screen are called rows. There are 8,192 rows in 123, and they are numbered 1 through 8,192. Imagine lines running up and down between each column and back and forth across each row. Think of a spreadsheet as an accountant's worksheet or a ledger pad. You may have used one of them before. In fact, there are over 2 million places to enter information in 123, and each of these places is called a cell. A cell is the intersection of a column and a row. Notice the highlighted area at the intersection of column A and row 1. This is called the current cell. Think of the cell pointer as your pencil and the current cell as the area you will write in. Look in the top left corner of the screen. The first thing we'll learn is how to move around in 1, 2, 3. See the arrows on the numeric keypad? They help us move the cell pointer. Now press the right arrow a few times. See the cell pointer jumps from cell to cell. Now let's press the left arrow a few times and look what happens. Why don't we type your first name? See your name appear in the control panel as you type. If you make a mistake, fix it by pressing the backspace key and continue typing. Now press enter. Look at that. Your name appeared in cell A1 and it is also next to the cell address in the control panel. Everything you enter in 1, 2. Next, enter 184 in B4 and 322 in B5. The next step is to type total in A6 so that we know what the numbers in row 6 mean. The important thing is that you remember to begin with an A plus and use the address of the cells where the numbers are instead of the numbers themselves. Let's enter the formula now. You need to make sure the cell pointer is sitting where you want your answer. In this case, we need to place it in B6. Begin by typing plus. Then type B3 and another plus. B4, another plus, and B5. Look in the control panel and make sure your formula is the same as ours. If it isn't, use the backspace key to correct it. When you are satisfied, press enter. Wow, did you see how fast 1, 2, 3 added those numbers together? Let's take a look at all the... But remember, we want it to copy into Thursday's and Friday's columns also. The period key is how you anchor the cell pointer. Anchoring means locking the cell pointer on one cell so you can expand it to include other cells. Let's anchor the cell pointer. Press the period key and notice that the cell address in the control panel displays D6 ... D6. Now that the cell pointer is anchored, press the right arrow key 2 times and watch it expand to include E6 and F6. This tells 1, 2, 3 to copy the formula into all 3 cells at once. Press enter to finish and watch 1, 2, 3 add those columns up. You know, we haven't taken time to save this work of art yet. Let's do that next. Let's erase all the weekly detail from our spreadsheet and save a master copy of it for future use. Move the cell pointer to B3. That's the upper left corner of the range we want to erase. Next, press slash to bring up the menu, and press R to select range. From the range menu, press E to select erase. There is the prompt again. 1, 2, 3 wants us to highlight the range we want to erase. So press the right arrow key until you get to column F, and the down arrow key until you get to row 5. Finish by pressing enter. Look at all those zeros. That's good. Now we have a blank spreadsheet that we can save as a master to be filled in weekly. Next,
The Video Professor's tapes that show you how to run spreadsheets are Lotus, Excel, PFS First Choice, and AppleWorks. Databases are important for keeping records like client lists or just about any list, such as inventory or even a guest list for a wedding. Here's some excerpts from the Video Professor's tape on learning DBase 4 to give you an idea of how these programs work.
Before we can use DBase 4, you must understand what a database is. A database is an organized collection of information, just like a phone book. A phone book is divided into sections, such as the yellow pages, the white pages, the business pages, and the government listings. In DBase 4, we would think of each section as a separate database file. a collection of files that relate to each other or have a common reason for existing. In DBase 4, we will be creating a database file. Each file is broken down into fields and records. A field is one item of information. A person's last name in a phone book is a field. All the fields together, such as last name, first name, address, city, and phone number for one person, make a record. So a database consists of one or more files having a common reason for existing, and each file consists of fields and records. When we create a new database file, all we have to do is define the fields that the file will contain. This is called database definition. Now that we have a better understanding of let's take a tour of the screen before we continue. The three words at the top of the screen are called menus. Each menu can be selected by pressing the Alt key and typing the first letter of the menu you want. Hold down the Alt key and type a T. Notice that the Tools menu is selected. Now press the left arrow key until the Tools menu is selected again. Did you notice that as each menu is selected, a box is displayed under it, showing all the things that you can do from that menu? The box is called a submenu. See how the word macros is highlighted right now? If you want to select one of the options in this submenu other than the one that is highlighted, press the up or down arrow key. If you wanted to quit DBase 4, we would highlight the exit menu and select the Quit to DOS option and press the Enter key. Do not press the Enter key now, or you'll have to start the program again. We will return to the menus in just a minute. Let's suppose we want to keep records for canine kennels. We are in the business of buying and selling highly prized pets, and we want to keep track of each pet that is fortunate enough to cross our doorstep. First, we'll decide just exactly what information we want from our database file. Let's see, we want to know the type of pet, you know, dog, cat, bird, fish, and so on. Then we need to know the pet's gender, male or female. And we need to know what we paid for the pet and sold it for. It would also be nice if we knew what date we bought the animal and what day we sold the animal. Oh, I almost forgot. Each animal in our store has a name, so let's include that piece of information too. If Create under the Data panel is not highlighted, press the left arrow key until it is, and press Enter. This is the screen that we will use to create the structure of our database file. Let's define the fields for our database file now. Remember I said that each record in a database file is made up of fields. Fields are those items of information we discussed a few minutes ago. Remember, pet type, gender, and name. We should list the most important field first, so I think it ought to be pet type. The cursor should be sitting in the highlighted area under field name, and the number 1 should be directly to the left. This is field 1. Type the word pet, followed by an underscore, and the word type in the field name column. Notice how the field name appears as all caps, even though you may have typed it as lowercase. While we are here, let's discuss the rules for field names. A field name may be up to 10 characters long. Now, let's enter the description for our last field. I always like to have a comments field when I create a database file like this one, so let's call it comments. Go ahead and type comments and press the Enter key. This field will be a memo field, so press M. Again, did you notice that the field width is set automatically?
Professor, why did the width column set itself to 10? I thought you said it could take up to 5,000 characters.
DBase 4 stores memo fields separately from the rest of the file so that the program can work faster. Therefore, a width of 10 is always assigned to a memo field. Now we are done defining fields in our Pet Shop database file. Before we can add records, we have to store our database file definition. Now hold down the Control key and press the N key to save our work. Let's name this database file Pets. That sounds appropriate, doesn't it? Notice that we are using all lowercase letters. It doesn't matter how you type a file name because later, when the file name is displayed, it will be in all caps. Now press the Enter key. DBase 4 is asking us if we want to input data records now. The Y/N prompt means to type a Y to answer yes or an N to answer no. Type a Y. Notice that you do not have to press the Enter key to complete the response. This is called the Edit screen. We can simply refer to it as the screen we use to add records to our database file. Why don't we enter some records for canine kennels right now? Notice the cursor is at the beginning of the first field, so we can start typing. Our first pet is going to be a dog, so type dog in the pet type field and press the Enter key. Remember to start with a capital D. The cursor is now in the name field. This dog's name is none other than Fido, so type that now and press the Enter key. Now we're going to learn how to browse through our records, edit individual records, add new records if we want, and even delete records that we don't want. Suppose that we had a long database file and we wanted to go to the top of the file or record 1. Press the F10 key and select the Go To menu. Notice that top record is already highlighted. Press the Enter key and the cursor moves to the top of the record. There, the first record is highlighted and the cursor is in the pet type field. Let's practice moving around this screen. Press the N key. Pretty simple once you know how, isn't it? Now I want to show you how easy it is to find and display specific data that you want from your database. For instance, if you wanted to know all of the dogs we paid more than $200 for, we do this in the Query mode. Now, select Create from the Queries panel. You are now confronted with a screen that is divided. The upper half has the fields available from the database that is currently being used. This is called the file skeleton. In the file skeleton, you enter the instructions to dbase for what specific information you want from your database. In the spaces below each field name. Let's see how many animals we paid more than $200 for. First, tab over to the Paid field, and the greater than sign, which is located above the period, will be the first character that you will type. So hold down the Shift key and then press the greater than key. Now type 200. Now press the F2 key and give dbase4 a chance to process your query. After that is complete, all of the files that we asked for appear right before your eyes. All of the animals that we paid more than $200 for are on the screen, just like we asked for.
The database programs the video professor has training tapes for are DBase, AppleWorks, and PFS First Choice. Now, on to one of the most exciting computer programs for the personal computer, desktop publishing. Here are some excerpts from the video professor's tape on learning PageMaker for the Macintosh.
Welcome to my introductory tape on PageMaker, one of the most powerful desktop publishing programs available today. With PageMaker, you will be able to prepare professional-looking documents such as newsletters, letterheads, brochures, ads, posters, and transparencies. While PageMaker is quite powerful, its basics are not difficult to master with some practice and close attention to the lessons which follow. Before we begin, much of the work you'll do on PageMaker is mouse-controlled. Simply roll the mouse to make the cursor move on the screen. A soft mouse pad available at your computer dealer will prolong the mouse's life and make movements easier. To enter the PageMaker program, double-click on the PageMaker folder and then double-click on the PageMaker icon. You'll have to wait a while it loads, since the program is really large. When the copyright screen with the picture of Aldous Manutius appears, you'll see a menu bar at the top of the screen. Click and hold on File and you'll see your choices. New is for starting a file from scratch, and Open is opening a file that you already created with PageMaker. Move down to New and release the mouse. Now we're ready to set up our page. This screen shows PageMaker's preset options called defaults. You can change these defaults at any time. Page size will normally be US letter unless you have a special legal size paper tray for your printer. Now let's take a look at the pull-down menus. This next screen is your desktop with your sheet of paper lying on it. At the top of the screen, you'll see a series of pull-down menus. This is typical of Macintosh software and what makes it so simple to use.
How do these menus work, Professor?
They're quite easy to use, Christy. Let's take a quick tour through them. I'll explain each item in these menus in more detail later. Click and hold on each menu title to see what it contains. First, File. Notice that some of the functions are in gray.
This means you can't select them right now.
Only the ones in black are available. The File menu allows you to open and close files, save them, place text or graphics in them, print them, or quit PageMaker and return to the Finder. By the way, do you see those curvy symbols and the letters next to them? They indicate that you can accomplish the same function with a keyboard command. The curvy symbol means the command key.
Press it in combination with one of the letters and you'll have the same result as using the mouse. Edit allows you to change what you're working on by undoing some mistakes you might have made. Not you, Christy. Copy or remove sections of your work, move graphics around, and so forth.
Options allows you to change the way your page appears on the screen. Provides you with helpful rulers, guides, and tools. As a matter of fact, let's turn on those rulers now. Drag down to Rulers and Release.
Now you have both vertical and horizontal rulers to guide you on the page.
Page lets you see your page in different sizes and allows you to insert or remove pages from the document you're creating. Type makes you in charge of typesetting, just like a printer. And this feature is what most people buy PageMaker for. Lines controls the size and type of lines you draw.
Shades controls the shading in of boxes and circles you can draw. Now on to typesetting. All right, Christy, now let's get fancy. I really don't like that font.
What's a font, Professor?
A font is a style of type. The default font in PageMaker is called Times, but there are lots of other choices available, such as Helvetica, Zaf Chancery, and Palatino.
Let's take a look at a new font. First, select the entire paragraph. Put the cursor at the beginning of the paragraph and click and hold as you draw the mouse across and down the text.
You see, all of the paragraph is highlighted.
Now, go up to the Type menu and drag down to Type Specs and Release. This stands for Type Specifications. The screen you see now allows you to change the selected text in a multitude of ways. To select a font, simply click on it and it becomes highlighted. Let's select Helvetica. Good. Now, let's select a point size.
What do you mean by point size?
Well, Christy, the term point is a printer's measurement. 1 point equals 1/72 of an inch. Let's try 18 points. Click on 18.
Now, leading is another printer's term. Leading is the distance between the top of one line of type and the top of the next line of type. It's kind of like single or double spacing. Auto leading has PageMaker adjust the leading proportionally to the size of type you chose. That's fine for our purposes, or we could have typed in another number between 0 and 127 and chosen the number of points of leading that we wanted. Now we could choose any of the style options at the bottom of this screen by clicking in the box to the left of each one. For now, how about putting our paragraph in bold? Good. See the X in the box next to bold? And the X has disappeared from the normal box. We could also choose to put the entire paragraph in all capitals or in small capital letters, but let's not get too fancy.
All right, Christy, click on OK and let's see what's happened to our paragraph. Now let's take a look at some things you can do with PageMaker to set up a newsletter, for example. First, we want to set your page into 2 columns. Click on Options and drag down to Column Guides and Release. This screen lets us establish the number of columns and the space between each column.
Let's choose 2 columns by simply typing 2. And we'll stay with the default space between columns.
Click OK. You'll now see a column guide down the center of the page. This is a non-printing guide which is there simply to help you format the page.
Since our paragraphs run across the guides, we'll need to adjust the paragraph to fit into the columns. First of all, it will be easier for us to change the paragraph width if we can see more of the page. Go up to Page, and click and drag down to fit the window and release. In this view, we can't read the text, but that's not important right now. Now go up to the toolbox and select the pointer tool. Okay, point and click at any part of the first paragraph. Do you see the window shade type of lines above and below the paragraph? The bottom handle of the window shade has a number sign in it indicating that there is no more text hidden under the shade. Point and hold on that handle and push it up so that it is right below the top handle. The paragraph disappears, but the window shade handle now has a plus on it, indicating that there is text under it. Click once quickly on the plus and release. The pointer tool changes to a text icon. Move the text icon to the upper left corner of the page. Now, click the mouse and the paragraph will flow into the column. If you don't like the position of the text in the column, point at the paragraph using the pointer tool and click and hold the mouse. The pointer tool will change to double arrows. Try moving the mouse and watch how the text moves along with it. When you're happy with its position, release the mouse. Now, Christy, can you format the lower paragraph into the...
Desktop publishing programs the Video Professor has training tapes for are PageMaker, PFS First Publisher, and Ventura. And now, on to the last software program we will cover here. That's DOS. Watch as the professor explains how it works.
Okay, let's start off by learning about the floppy disk. A floppy disk comes in two different sizes, 5 1/4 and 3 1/2 inch. They get the name floppy because the actual disk is floppy, even though the floppy disk in the 3 1/2 inch size is enclosed in a hard case. These disks hold lots and lots of information. It's kind of like the way a cassette works, which stores and plays sound. The diskette stores and plays data. When inserted into the computer can read the information on that disk and display it on the screen. Games, computer programs, and even letters to a friend are all stored on these disks and are referred to as data. Let's move on to starting the computer. The first thing you need to start your computer is DOS. DOS is a program that is located on a diskette. DOS stands for Disk Operating System and is the program that makes your computer work. In other words, you cannot run any software programs on your computer without first loading DOS. Loading is a computer term for taking data from a diskette and loading it into the computer's memory. And what is a disk operating system? Quite simply, an operating system is a translator. You see, you have your computer hardware, that is the CPU, monitor, and keyboard, and you have your software, that is the word processors, games, or other programs. The operating system takes instructions from these programs and translates them into instructions the hardware can understand. Computers are very simple machines. They need system software such as DOS to transform high-level commands like copy this letter into simpler instructions the computer can understand. Again, since DOS is... To insert the disk in the drive correctly, make sure you have the smooth side up. If it's the original DOS disk, it will be the side with the label. Make sure the end with the disk exposed and the oval hole goes in first. Close the drive door and turn the power on. You should also switch the monitor power on. And we are back to the A greater than sign with our cursor. This will become an old friend as you will see it often. It is called the DOS prompt. By that we mean that the disk operating system, DOS, is waiting to be told what to do next. The A means that the system is ready to read or write from the A drive. If you had a B prompt on the screen, the B prompt would indicate that DOS is looking at the B drive instead. The C would mean DOS is looking at the hard drive. The drive letter... Let's take a look at another DOS command. One of the most useful is dir, which stands for directory. Let's see what entering dir at the prompt will do. Simply type dir and press enter. Remember, if you make a mistake, you can press the backspace key one or more times to correct it.
Simply press the backspace key until the unwanted letters disappear, and type in the correct letters. Now press the Enter key. The dir command displays on the screen a list of all the files contained on the diskette in the default drive, which is the DOS disk in drive A in our case. Now let's get a better idea about what these files are. Files are the computer's way of organizing information on a disk. Diskettes hold files just like a filing cabinet you would see in an office or library. Each diskette is kind of like a drawer. Suppose this drawer was a word processing disk. When you open the drawer, you can see all the files that it contains, just like the dir command does to look at the disk files. Now suppose that in this filing drawer you had a letter to a friend. All you would do to see it is open that file. The same is true for the files on the disk. If you had a letter to a friend, all you would do to see it is open that file. This is an oversimplified explanation because each file has certain procedures that need to be followed to open that file. Here are some files from the DOS. The next portion of this video lesson will be devoted to the DOS command, format. The reason for this command is a disk must be formatted before it can hold data. You can buy pre-formatted diskettes, but usually you must format new disks. The format command physically prepares the disk to hold data by creating invisible tracks and sectors. This is kind of like an unmarked parking lot. Until the lines are painted on it, cars don't know where to park. These tracks and sectors tell data where to park. You need to format a diskette when it is new. However, you can format it again at any time. This is called reformatting. But be warned, reformatting erases any information already on the diskette. Let's copy one of your DOS files from one disk to another. The copy command allows us to do this. Let's copy the file tree.com that is located on the DOS disk. Nicole with the DOS diskette we wish to copy from in drive A and the blank formatted disk we're going to copy to in drive B. Simply type in copy space A:, tree.com space B:. Dual drive users are copying the file to the formatted disk in drive B. The A drive is the source drive, and the B or C drive is the destination. It is source destination or from to. Okay, everyone press enter. When the file is copied, the one file copied message will appear. To check and see that our tree.com file did copy, make sure you have your destination drive prompt on the screen. And type dir and enter. And there is our file. Now let's look at a way to copy all the files from the DOS disk so we can have a copy of our original DOS disk.
Other file management systems Video Professor has tapes for are OS/2 and Windows. Both utilize a graphical environment using a mouse to help make selections. Here's a little bit of the Video Professor's tape on Windows.
One of the advantages of using Windows is that unlike DOS, where you can have only one application running at a time and then must stop to start another, Windows allows you to have several programs running at once. And it's a simple task to switch from one to another and to transfer files between them. As you will see, we can do this with both Windows applications and with non-Windows. The first window that shows up after the window display screen is the Program Manager, a kind of home screen or shell.
Professor, what exactly is a window?
Good question, Pam. We need to be clear about our terms here. The entire display on your monitor or screen is called the desktop. The box outlined inside the desktop is the window. Very simply, a window is a section of screen or desktop where you can work with your applications and documents. You may have many windows overlapping each other on the desktop, and they may be moved and placed anywhere on the screen. All windows behave in basically the same way. You manipulate them using the mouse or the keyboard. Pam, a good way to get acquainted with Windows and the mouse and keyboard cursor controls is to use one of Windows' games to practice navigating around. Let's open a game of solitaire. Pam, move the mouse pointer on top of the game icon and double-click. Notice the game's window appears within the Program Manager window. To get this same window with the keyboard, hold down the Alt key and press the W key. This brings up the window menu. Now press 4, the number beside Games, and the window appears. To open the solitaire game, double-click on the solitaire icon, or since the word solitaire is already highlighted, just press Enter. There, a game of solitaire is all laid out for you.
Professor, this looks like fun, but I can't see all of my cards.
We'll fix that, Pam, but I want to mention again that our viewers may get a different size window than we see here. Don't worry. The first thing we'll learn about manipulating windows is how to change their size. Windows have several standard parts. We'll go through each one of them. To begin with, Pam, move the mouse pointer slowly to the right edge of the window and see how it changes into a double-pointed arrow. Windows have a standard sizing border, and this arrow indicates the point where the window border can be picked up and sized. Hold down the mouse button and move the mouse slightly to the left. Release the button and notice how the window changed size. Now move down to the lower corner until the double arrow becomes angled. This is an indicator to tell you that you can size the window both horizontally and vertically if you pick it up there. Pam, hold the button at the corner and move the mouse up and to the left. Do you see the ghost window border showing what your new size will be? Release the button and notice how the window changed size. Pam, maximize the accessories window so we can use it easily. Write and Paintbrush are applications that come with Windows. Write is a word processor and Paintbrush is a graphics drawing program. Pam, select Write with either the mouse or, since it's highlighted, you could just press Enter with the keyboard. There, Write opened up in a window bigger than the Program Manager, although still not a full screen view. You can see that it also has its own menu bar with some different choices. We'll come back to Write in a few minutes, but for now, Pam, minimize this window. We're going to take a quick tour of the other accessories that come with Windows. I'm sure you'll find them useful once we've reviewed how they work. Mouse and keyboard controls are found here, as well as printer selection menus. And you can tell your computer whether or not to beep using the sound icon. I'm sure you will want to experiment with all the choices available on the control panel. But for now, let's move along to look at the other main window items. The File Manager gives you a view of the drive you're in, and a single click on the drive gives you a list of the directories available on that drive. I will assume that most of you are working on the C drive, as we are. Looking at the directory tree on our screen, we see that some of the directories have a plus on the file folder symbol. That means that the directory has subdirectories within it. A single click on this plus will display a list of its subdirectories. Double-clicking on these subdirectories will display a list of their files. Close this window and click on C to get back to our tree structure. Now double-click on the WP51 directory and we see all of its files. Select a file simply by clicking on it. Now from your menu, show the pull-down menu for File. You see that Windows will let you open a Windows-compatible file using the File Manager, or print it, or copy it, or delete it. If you have a document you work on often, Associate lets you double-click on that file, then automatically starts the application and opens directly to that file. Now you don't have to memorize the specific DOS commands because you can use the Windows menu to manage your files. Press Escape to close the File pull-down menu, and press hyphen to open the control menu for the directory tree. Choose Close. Before we close File Manager, let's briefly review the other menu choices. Under Disk, you see some DOS disk commands. Format, Copy, Label. Under Tree, you can...
Windows also includes other programs within it, such as a small database, word processing, and a paint program. The beauty of Windows is how you can move files from one program to another.
I'm sure you'll want to come back to this program and practice some more, and also try using some of the tools we didn't get to use in this lesson. But for now, I think we should save our work and then see how we can transfer this map into our memo. Pam, choose Save As from the File menu, and let's call this picture Map. Since we want to transfer our map into our memo, we have one more step to do here. There are two cutout tools, both identified by scissors symbols. The left one with the star shape is the freeform tool, and the right one called Pick with the box shape will define a square or rectangular shape. Pam, select the Pick tool since our map is rectangular, and move your pointer into the drawing once again. Position the pointer on the outside at the top left corner so that you can select the whole map without cutting off any pieces. Now that the cutout is defined, go to the Edit menu and select Copy. This places a copy of the map in the clipboard and also leaves the original intact in our paintbrush file just in case we want to come back to it later. Now, Pam, we can close the paintbrush program using the Control menu. Since we already saved our map, we don't need to do it again now. But it never hurts. Let's just go take a look at the clipboard to be sure our picture is really there and ready to be pasted into the memo. Double-click on the clipboard icon. Well, good, there's our map. Now let's use the task list to switch back to our memo. And then we want right, so highlight it and press Enter. Now position your cursor below the last paragraph and click to mark the position. Pull down the Edit menu and select Paste. And there it is. It looks great. So Pam, I think you should save your work again. You can use Save this time instead of Save As. You can see how easily the clipboard transfers information between our two Windows applications, Write and Paintbrush. You can use the same steps, cut, copy, and paste, to transfer selected information between any Windows applications. Now, Pam, choose Print from the File menu to...
Professor. And you are about to learn software by means of a creative new concept in the computer industry. I'll take you step by step through learning your new software package. On the screen now are some other tapes available in my series. With them, you can watch and learn at your own speed. Stop and practice anytime you want and review topics you don't understand. I suggest that you view each tape in its entirety. Then go back through the lesson with your computer and your software and practice each step. All of my tapes are designed to get you up and running quickly. Once you have viewed and practiced everything that is on these tapes, I think you'll find your software manual much easier to understand. And now, let's get started.
Welcome to Level 2 of Lotus 123 Release 2.2 and 3.0. Even if you have very limited experience with 123, this lesson will be useful. You should already know how to move the cell pointer, write simple formulas, save and retrieve spreadsheets, print a spreadsheet, clearing the screen, and using the command menu. I would like to introduce you to Pam, our student helper for today.
Hello, Professor.
Hi, Pam. If you haven't started 123 yet, go ahead and do it now. To begin, you should have an empty Lotus screen with the cell pointer in A1. We are going to create a new spreadsheet that tracks weekly expenses for a hypothetical person. There are several features of Lotus 123 that I will introduce to you while we create this spreadsheet together. Then we will create one more spreadsheet that will be used to teach you how to use 123 for database operations. The following topics will be introduced in this learning lesson. Absolute and relative cell addressing. You will use this feature to make sure a formula always refers to one cell, even when it is copied to other cells. Range format. You will use range format to change the appearance of cells to dollars and cents. Range names. You will use range names so that you won't have to remember cell address ranges when you perform the File Combine command. File Combine. You will combine parts of two files into a third file. Database operations. You will use 123 to maintain a phone list for you. You will then sort the records in the phone list, find a record, and have 123 extract specific records from the phone list. Headers, footers, and borders. These three features allow you to enhance the printed version of a spreadsheet with text, dates, and page numbers that appear at the top and or bottom of every printed page. The first thing we will need to do is type the column and row headings for the expense report. I prefer to type column and row headings in capital letters. So turn the caps lock on by pressing the caps lock key. You can tell when the caps lock feature is on by the word caps in the lower right corner of the screen. Let's type the word name followed by a colon in cell A1 and move the cell pointer over to B1. While we're in row 1, let's move over to column G and type the word weekly. We can move the cell pointer down one row and work backwards if we want. Type the word totals and move one cell to the left. Now type the days of the week, working backwards from cell F2. Abbreviate the weekdays to 3 letters just for fun. We should end up in column A. Now let's type the information we need in row headings. Follow along as we enter the row headings. Lodging in A3. Breakfast in A5. Lunch in A6. Dinner in A7. Total meals in A9. Beginning mileage in A11. Ending miles in A12. Total mileage in A14. And mileage dollars due in A15. And total expenses in A17. Your spreadsheet should look like this one does now. If it doesn't, take all the time you need to copy the spreadsheet by pausing or rewinding the tape. Let's set the columns width of column A to 16 while we're here. That should make it wide enough. Let's go through the keystrokes together. First, press slash to display the main menu. Then press W to select worksheet from the main menu. Press C to select column from the worksheet menu, and press S to select set width from the column menu. Now 1, 2, 3 is prompting us to enter a column width. Press the right arrow key until the highlight in the active cell is 1 character wider than the longest heading in the column. You can look up in the control panel to verify that the column width is 16, and press the enter key to finish. Now let's enter the lines that divide the subtotals and totals. Move the cell pointer up to cell A4 and enter a single dash line by pressing the repeating key, which is the backslash, and then type a dash. Your control panel should look like this. Remember, the repeating key is used to fill a cell with a character. In this case, we use the dash. In Release 3, the sheet is also indicated by a letter for the sheet, a colon, and cell location. Ignore the sheet letters for right now. We will cover multiple spreadsheets in level 4. Now press enter and watch the cell fill up with little dashes. Let's fill cell A13 with dashes too. And finally, let's fill cell A16 with double dashed lines. The equal sign is the one we'll use here. We'll copy all 3 of these lines all the way across to column G now. Let's begin the double dashed line in cell A16 because that is where the cell pointer is sitting. Press slash to display the main menu and press C to select copy. Now 1, 2, 3 is prompting us for the range to copy from. In this case, we only want to copy the cell that we are currently on, so press enter. 1, 2, 3 needs us to specify the copy to range now. We want to copy the double dashed line all the way to column G, so let's move the cell pointer to column B with the right arrow key and press the period to anchor it. Now the cell pointer is anchored, so we can expand it to highlight the rest of the cells in this row that need a double dashed line. Press the right arrow key until the cell pointer is expanded to include cell G16. Now press enter to finish the copy command. Can you copy the other 2 lines on your own? We'll perform the steps slowly so you can follow along. Make sure you get caught up before we proceed. If you are caught up now, we will go on. Move the cell pointer to cell B3 and look at the word above it. See how the days of the week are too far to the left? Let's right align the days of the week, the word name, and the word's weekly totals all at once. Start by moving the cell pointer to A1. Press the Home key. That will move the cell pointer there in one step. Now press slash to display the main menu and R to display the range menu. We'll use the labels option from this menu, so press L to select it. 1, 2, 3 is prompting us to choose one of the three types of label alignment. Press R to select right alignment. Now 1, 2, 3 is prompting us to enter a range of labels to right align. Press the right arrow key until column G is highlighted, and then press the down arrow key one time. All the labels we need to change are highlighted, so let's press enter to finish. See, all the labels we highlighted have now moved over to the right edge of their cells. This should make our spreadsheet look better. While the cell pointer is here, let's enter the name of the person this expense report is for. Move the cell pointer to B1 and enter John Smith. There, does your spreadsheet look like this one? If it doesn't, take a minute to get caught up now. Next, we will write the formulas for this spreadsheet. Begin by moving the cell pointer to B9. This is where we will total the meals for Monday. Why don't we use the sum function to write this formula? Type the @ sign, the word sum, and a left parentheses. Now you can point to cell B5 with the up arrow key. Once you have done that, type a period to anchor the cell pointer. Point to cell B7 with the down arrow key. Type a right parentheses to finish the formula, and press enter. See, the formula is shown in the control panel, and the correct answer, which is 0 right now, is shown in the spreadsheet. Well, Pam, what do you think we need to do now?
I think we should copy the formula across to column G, Professor.
We could do that, Pam, but I am going to show you how to copy all the formulas at one time. The next step will be to write the formula that subtracts beginning mileage from ending mileage. So move the cell pointer to cell B14 and begin the formula with a plus sign. Now point to cell B12 with the up arrow key. Type a minus sign. Point to cell B11 and press enter to finish the formula. Your formula should look like this one does now. It reads plus B12 minus B11. If it does not look the same, take a minute and repeat the steps I just described. If you remember how to use the edit key, F2, you can correct the formula that way. The next step is to write the formula for mileage expense. This formula will be different than the formulas you have written in the past. I am going to introduce you to absolute cell addressing. From previous experience, you know that a formula can be copied into one or more cells. As an example, the formula in this cell subtracts the number that is 3 cells above it from the number that is 2 cells above it. If you copy the formula across to calculate total miles from the other 4 days of the week, the formulas perform the same task as the original formula, using the cells that are 3 above and 2 above. This is called relative cell addressing. Our formula for mileage expense, however, is going to always refer to a rate that we will type in one cell. When we copy the formula to other cells, we must make sure that the part of the formula that refers to the rate cell does not change. The first thing we will do is move the cell pointer up to cell H1. Now let's type the word mileage. Move down one cell, type the word rate, move down one cell, and type decimal 21. This is the rate per mile that we'll use to calculate mileage expense. With that done, we need to move back to cell B15 and write the formula. We will use the pointing method to write this formula and introduce a new function key. The key is the absolute key, F4. To calculate mileage expense, we need to multiply total miles times the mileage rate in cell H3. Type a plus to start the formula. Move the cell pointer up one cell to the total miles figure. Type a multiplication sign, which is an asterisk, and move the cell pointer to cell H3. Your formula should read the same as ours does now. It reads plus B14 times H3. The cell pointer should be at cell H3. Next, we need to tell 123 to permanently lock onto this cell. Press the function key F4 and look at the formula in the control panel. See the two dollar signs, one in front of the H and the other in front of the 3? They indicate that the cell address is now absolute. Press Enter to finish writing the formula. The cursor is now back at B15. If you're using release 3, you have $3 signs. The additional sign is in front of the sheet letter A. The formula reads the same as usual, except for the dollar signs. We'll come back to this in a minute, but first, let's write the formula for total expenses. We need to include 3 totals in this formula: lodging, total meals, and mileage expense. Move the cell pointer down to cell B17. Press plus. Move the cell pointer up to B3. The lodging expenses. Press plus. Move the cell pointer up to B9. Total meals. Press plus. Move the cell pointer up to B15 and press Enter. Check to see that your formula is the same. If it isn't, repeat the steps we just did before proceeding. Now we have 4 formulas that need to be copied into the cells for the rest of the week. Do you think we can copy all of them at once? Yes, we can. And it only involves one more step than the copy command you have been using. To begin, move the cell pointer up to the first formula in cell B9, which is meals. Press slash to display the main menu, and press C to select copy. This is where we perform the extra step. 123 is prompting us for the range to copy from. If we were only copying one formula from one cell, we would press Enter. But we want to copy all 4 formulas in this column, so press the down arrow key until you have highlighted all the cells down to total expenses in cell B17. Don't be worried about these lines. They won't be bothered by the copy command. Now press Enter. 123 is prompting us for the range to copy to now, so move the cell pointer 1 cell to the right. Make sure it is in cell C9. Anchor the cell pointer with the period and press the right arrow key until cell C9, D9, E9, and F9 are all highlighted. Press Enter to finish the copy command. There, your screen should look like this. If it doesn't, go back and repeat the copy procedure again. Remember the absolute cell address formula we used to calculate mileage expense? Let's take a look at the way it looks. Move the cell pointer down to cell B15 and read the formula in the control panel. Now move the cell pointer into cell C15. See, the second half of this formula still refers to cell H3. Take a minute to view the formulas in D15 through F15. Did you notice that they also refer to cell D15? Remember to use absolute cell addressing whenever you want to lock a formula onto a specific cell. The next thing we need to do is to write a formula that will total all 5 days' lodging expenses here in cell G3. Begin by moving the cell pointer to G3. Let's use the sum function again. Type the @ sign followed by the word sum and left parentheses. Now move the cursor pointer to cell B3. Press the period to anchor the cell pointer. And move the cell pointer back to cell F3. Type a right parentheses to close the formula and press Enter to finish. Your formula should look the same as this one. It reads at sum B3 through F3. Take a moment to catch up now if you need to. Now we are going to copy the formula into the meals row, total miles row, mileage expense row, and total expenses row. We won't need to total the beginning and ending mileage rows, so we will perform the copy command in 2 steps. Make sure the current cell is G3. Press slash to display the main menu and C to select copy. The range to copy from is G3, so press Enter. The range to copy to is G5 through G9. Move the cursor to G5, anchor it, Move it down to G9 and press Enter to finish the copy command. Okay, let's press the Home key to see what we have. Did you notice that we have an extra 0 on cell G8? And there should be a line across row 8. Let's go through the steps to change this. Move the cursor to cell A8. Press backslash and a dash and press Enter. Press slash to display main menu. C to select copy and Enter because this is our copy from range. Press the right arrow once, anchor the cursor with a period, and move the highlight to cell G8. Press Enter to finish the copy command. See how the 0 in cell G8 disappeared when we copied over it? Now we are going to copy the formula in cell G3 to cells G14, G15, G16, and G17. Make sure the current cell is G3. Press slash to display the main menu, and C to select copy. The range to copy from is G3, so press Enter. The range to copy to is G14 through G17. Move the cursor to G14, anchor it, move it down to G17, and press Enter to finish the copy command. We will need to replace the 0 in cell G16 with a double dashed line, so move the cell pointer to G16. Type a backslash, an equal sign, and press Enter. There we have our double dashed line again. We have completed the working part of the expense report, so let's take a look at the numbers that need to be filled in. Why don't you pause the tape now so you can fill in the expense report? Remember, the only numbers that we need to fill in are lodging, breakfast, lunch, dinner, beginning mileage, and ending mileage. The totals will automatically be calculated because we've already written the formulas. The next thing we will learn is how to format or change the appearance of numbers in cells to look like dollars and cents. Position the cell pointer on cell B3. This is the upper left corner of the range of cells we want to appear as dollars and cents. All of the numbers in the expense report except beginning and ending mileage need to be formatted. Press slash to display the main menu. Press R to select range and F to select format. Notice that 123 gives you several different formatting styles that you can use to change the appearance of the spreadsheet. Release 3 gives you even more formatting options in the other option. The normal format is general. We want to use currency, so press C to select it. 123 is prompting us for the number of decimal places to display. Notice that you can display from 0 to 15 decimal places, and 2 is the normal setting. We want to display 2 decimal places, so simply press Enter. Now 123 is prompting us for the range to format. Highlight all the lodging numbers over to column G, and then highlight down to the total meals row, row 9. The range to format should read B3 through G9. Press Enter to finish the format command. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Let's format mileage expense and total expense as currency now. Move the cell pointer to cell B15 and press slash to display the main menu. Press R to select range, F to select format, and C to select currency. Press Enter to accept 2 decimal places and highlight the range B15 through G17. Press Enter to finish formatting the range. Now that we have completed the expense report, we will save it. Press slash to display the main menu, and press F to select File, and S to select Save. 123 is prompting us for the name of the file. Let's call this expense report Smith 1 and press Enter. One of the things you can do with 123 is to combine the contents of different files and either consolidate information or add numbers together. Suppose you wanted to keep each week's expense report for John Smith, and then at the end of each month total all his expenses. We are going to modify the current expense report so we can have 2 weeks of expenses and a master expense report to combine our weekly totals in. I don't want you to have to do a lot of typing, so let's start by changing a few of the numbers in the current expense report and pretending it is the report for week number 2. Start by erasing the lodging expense for Wednesday. Move the cell pointer to cell D3. Press / to display the main menu. R to select range. And E to select erase. When 123 prompts you for the range to erase, press enter. Do the same thing to the dinner expense for Friday in cell F7. Remember, we are only using these numbers for illustration. Normally, the mileage figures would all change and entries would have to be made for each day's lodging and meals. When you combine spreadsheets, you can combine the whole spreadsheet, or you can combine what is called a named range. We are going to use named ranges, so we will have to take a minute and name 2 ranges of cells that will be combined from Smith 1 and Smith 2. Since we are here, let's start by naming the ranges on this spreadsheet, and then we'll save it and call it Smith 2. The first range of cells we want to combine includes all the expenses we entered for lodging and meals, and the second range is the total miles row. Move the cell pointer to cell B3 first. Now press / to display the main menu. Press R to select range, N to select name, and C to select create. 123 is prompting us for the name of the range. You can type a name up to 14 characters long. Let's call this range expenses. Type the word expenses and press enter. 123 is prompting us to highlight the range, so move the cell pointer to cell F7 and press enter. To name the second range, move the cell pointer to cell B14. Press / to display the main menu. Press R to select range, N to select name, and C to select create. 123 is prompting us for the name of the range. Let's call this range miles. Type the word miles and press enter. 123 is prompting us to highlight the range, so move the cell pointer to cell F14 and press enter. Now that we have named both ranges, we will save this expense report so that we can have 2 weeks' expenses to combine into the master file. Press / to display the main menu. Press F to select file and S to select save. 123 is prompting us for the name of the file. Let's call this expense report Smith 2. Type the file name now and press enter. We need to create the same range names for the same groups of cells in Smith 1, so let's retrieve it now. Do you remember how to retrieve a file in Lotus 123, Pam?
I push / to display the main menu, select File, then Retrieve, and then type Smith 1 and finish with Enter.
That's exactly right, Pam. Now we can name the same ranges of cells in this spreadsheet that we named in Smith 2. In fact, we will use the same names because that will help us remember them. Start by moving the cell pointer to cell B3. Next, press / to display the main menu. Press R to select range, N to select name, and C to select create. 123 is prompting us for the name of the range. Type the word expenses and press enter. 123 is prompting us to highlight the range, so move the cell pointer to cell F7 and press enter. To name the second range, move the cell pointer to cell B14. Press / to display the main menu. Press R to select range, N to select name, and C to select create. Let's call this range miles. Type the word miles and press enter. 123 is prompting us to highlight the range, so move the cell pointer to cell F14 and press enter. Now we will save this expense report again. Press / to display the main menu. Press F to select file and S to select save. 123 is prompting us for the name of the file. Smith1 is the file name and is displayed here in the control panel. All we need to do is save it again, so just press enter. Lotus now gives us a choice of backing up the file if we have already saved it once. Choose B to make a backup of the old file and save the new file, or R to erase the old file and replace it with a changed version of our spreadsheet. The backup option is valuable because you will have another version of your work in case you make a mistake on your latest version. Press R to confirm and the file is saved. Now we need to combine Smith1 and Smith2. Before we can do that, we need to create a spreadsheet that doesn't have any expense figures in it. We will then bring the expense figures into the blank spreadsheet with the file combine command. I know an easy way to create this new spreadsheet. We will erase the exact same ranges of cells that we use for the two named ranges. Then we will save the spreadsheet again and give it another name. That will give us 3 expense reports. One for Smith1, one for Smith2, and one we will call totals. We will erase the first range using the range name we already created. Start by pressing / to display the main menu. Press R to select range and E to select erase. 123 wants to know the range to erase. You could type the word expenses and 123 would erase the range called expenses. But let's see what to do if we can't remember the name of the range. Press the function key F3 and the list of range names will appear right here in the control panel. You can use the arrow keys to highlight range names in the control panel, the same as with any 123 menu. For now, since expenses is highlighted, press enter. There, we erased the exact range of cells we wanted. Erase the range name miles the same way. Press / to display the main menu, press R to select range and E to select erase. 123 wants to know the range to erase. Press the function key F3 to display the list of range names. Highlight miles and press enter. We still want to erase the mileage figures because they won't have any meaning as we accumulate the weekly expenses. So move the cell pointer to cell B11 and press / to display the main menu. Press R to select range and E to select erase. Move the cell pointer to cell F12 and press enter to finish erasing the range. There, we have created the blank areas we will use for combining the two expense reports. Now we need to save this spreadsheet under the name Totals. Press / to display the main menu, press F to select File, and S to select Save. 123 is prompting us for the name of the file. Smith1 is the displayed file name. Begin typing Totals and notice that Smith1 disappears as soon as you type the first letter of Totals. After you type the file name, press Enter to finish the Save command. The spreadsheet on the screen is Totals. Smith1 is still intact on the disk. Our next step is to combine the range called expenses from Smith1 and Smith2 into the blank area of the current expense report. The cell pointer must be positioned at the upper left corner of the area to be filled by the File Combine command, so move the cell pointer to cell B3. Press / to display the main menu. Press F to select File, and C to select Combine. 123 wants to know if we want to copy, add, or subtract the incoming cells. Copy will replace the current cell contents with the incoming cell contents. Add will add the incoming cell contents to any existing numbers in same cells of the current spreadsheet. And subtract will subtract the incoming cell contents from the same cells of the current spreadsheet. We are going to combine Smith1 first. We must use add when we do this type of combine because we need to bring the numbers from Smith1 and Smith2. If we were to use copy for the miles range, the formulas would be combined and the spreadsheet would display zeros in the miles row. Press A to select Add. 123 is prompting us to select an entire file or a named range to combine. We will use the named range, so press N to select it. Now 123 is prompting us for the range name to combine. The first range we want to combine is expenses. So type expenses and press Enter. The names key, F3, does not work with this command. Now we need to specify the file name to combine. It is Smith1, so type Smith1 and press Enter. That was fast, wasn't it? Not only did the numbers from Smith1 come in, but the formulas in the current spreadsheet calculated the totals for us. We need to repeat the procedures so we can combine the miles range also. Move the cell pointer to cell B14. Press slash to display the main menu. Press F to select File and C to select Combine. Press A to select Add. 123 is prompting us to select an entire file or a named range to combine. We will use the named range, so press N to select it. Now 123 is prompting us for the range name to combine. The second range we want to combine is miles, so type miles and press Enter. Now 123 wants to know the name of the file we want to combine, so type Smith1 and press Enter. Now that we have completed combining Smith1, we can combine the same information from Smith2. Make sure the cell pointer is in cell B3 before you begin. Press slash to display the main menu. Press F to select File and C to select Combine. 123 wants to know if we want to copy, add, or subtract the incoming cells. Press A to select Add. 123 is prompting us to select an entire file or a named range to combine. We will use the named range, so press N to select it. Now 123 is prompting us for the range name to combine. Remember, it was expenses, so type expenses and press Enter. Now we need to specify the file name to combine. It is Smith2, so type Smith2 and press Enter. The miles range from Smith2 still has to be combined. Move the cell pointer to cell B14 before you begin. Press slash to display the main menu. Press F to select File and C to select Combine. 123 wants to know if we want to copy, add, or subtract the incoming cells. Press A to select Add. 123 is prompting us to select an entire file or a named range to combine. We will use the named range, so press N to select it. Now 123 is prompting us for the range name to combine. Type miles and press Enter. Now we need to specify the file name to combine. It is Smith2, so type Smith2 and press Enter. There, both expense reports have been combined into an accumulated 2-week expense report. Of course, this expense report format probably isn't suited to your needs. It was designed only as a learning tool.
Professor, why are all these stars in the total column?
Whenever a number is wider than a cell, Pam, 123 fills the cell with asterisks, or stars as most people call them. All we have to do to fix this is make column G wide enough to display the numbers. Move the cell pointer to column G and press slash to bring up the menu. W to select Worksheet. C to select Column. And S to select Set Width. Now press the right arrow key until the numbers reappear and then press Enter. That's all there is to it. Before we go on with the rest of the lesson, we should save our totals spreadsheet. Press slash to display the main menu. Then press F to select File and S to select Save. 123 is suggesting the file name totals now, so all we have to do is press Enter, and 123 wants to know if we want to cancel or replace. Press R to replace. Now we can continue with the rest of this lesson. I think we have spent enough time with the expense report, so let's erase the worksheet. Begin by pressing slash to display the main menu. Press W to select Worksheet and E to select Erase. We need to confirm by pressing Y to select Yes. Remember, you already saved the spreadsheet that was on the screen, so nothing was lost or damaged by erasing the worksheet. I like to think of it as cleaning up my desktop. Lotus 123 can also be used to manage information such as phone lists, inventories, and employee payroll rosters. The information can be sorted to appear in the order you want. Pieces or groups of information that meet certain conditions can be found or extracted, and reports can be printed that only include the information you want.
Organized groups of information are called databases. The address list on the screen right now is a database. The first row of a 123 database consists of field names. A field name is a word that describes the contents of all the entries in the columns below it. This database has a field name for last name, first name, address, city, state, and zip code. Each row in the database that contains actual information is called a record. All the rows together are called a database or file. The record rows must begin one row beneath the field names. We are going to create the database that was on the screen, but first we need to make columns C and D a little wider so the address will fit. Move the cell pointer to column C. Press slash to display the main menu, W to select worksheet, C to select column width. Press C for column range and S to select width. 123 is prompting you for which columns, so press the right arrow to column D and press enter. At the column's width prompt, type 12 and press enter. There is one thing you need to know before you begin. The addresses all begin with a number. If you type a number followed by a word, 123 will beep at you, display the word edit in the mode indicator, and display the address in the control panel with the cursor blinking between the number and the text. 123 is not able to interpret mixed numbers and letters if the entry begins with a number, unless you use a label alignment character as the first character of the entry. Let's type the address again using the left label alignment character, which is an apostrophe, to tell 123 that we are typing a label. There, now 123 will accept the entry. Make sure you type the apostrophe for every address. You also need to type the entries with the capital letters the same way. When you search for information in a 123 database, it is very particular about capital letters and lowercase letters. Do this again by using the same key. Now move the cell pointer to cell A1. You should be able to enter the information in this phone list on your own. I am going to display the list on the screen so you can pause the recorder long enough to type the list. Notice how the address list is displayed with the records in random order. If we want to arrange the records in order by city and also alphabetize the people's last names, we will use the data option on the main menu and sort the records in the address list. Press slash to display the main menu, D to select data, and S to select sort. Now 123 needs at least two pieces of information from us. The first piece of information we must supply is the data range. The data range consists of all the records excluding the field names in the row at the top of the database. Let's set the data range now. Press D to select data range. 123 is prompting us to highlight the data range now. So move the cell pointer to cell A2 and press a period to anchor it. Highlight the range down to cell F10 and press enter. Did you notice that 123 returns to the data menu? We perform several tasks with this menu, so 123 always returns to this menu when you finish one of the related tasks. The primary key is used to sort a database in one level. As an example, if we only wanted to sort the address list by city, we would only need to specify the primary key. We want to alphabetize the list by last name within city, so we will specify the primary key of city and a secondary key of last name. Press P to select primary key. 123 displays the address of the current cell in the control panel after the message primary sort key. Move the cell pointer to the word city at cell D1 and press enter. Now 123 wants to know if we want to sort
in ascending order or descending order. Ascending order is from lowest to highest, or A to Z for letters and 0 to 9 for numbers. Descending order is from highest to lowest, or from Z to A for letters and 9 to 0 for numbers. Notice that D is the suggested choice, a descending sort. We want an ascending sort, so type A and press Enter. The sort menu is displayed again, and we want to specify a secondary sort, so press S to select secondary sort. 123 displays the address of the current cell in the control with the prompt message secondary sort key. L name is the first field. So move the cell pointer to cell A1 and press Enter. We want to sort in ascending order again, so type an A and press Enter. Users of Release 3 have another added bonus here. See the extra key? In addition to primary and secondary sorts, you can have another 253 sorts. That's certainly more than we need right now. The last step is to tell 123 to perform the sort. You probably guessed it already. Press G to select Go and sort the database. If you are looking over here at the last name field and wondering why the first record starts with a W, remember that we sorted by city first. Look over here in the city field. They are all alphabetized. Now, if you will look at the last names for Dallas, Reno, and Seattle, you will see that the last names are alphabetized within each city. That is all there is to sorting a database. There are two things you should remember. Once you specify a data range and save the database, 123 remembers, so you don't have to reset the data range every time you want to sort. The other thing you need to remember is that if you add records, you will need to expand the data range to include the new records before performing a sort, or 123 will ignore them. When you want to search a database and find one record such as the record for Mary Jones, or find all records that have an equal value in one field, such as all people who live in San Diego, you must set up an input range, which includes all of the database, including the field names and a criterion range, before you can search through the database. In Lotus 123, the word used for all search operations is query, and is found on the Data menu. Before we use the Query menu, we are going to create the criterion range headings. The criterion range consists of a row of field names identical to the field names at the top of the database and one or more blank rows underneath the criterion range field names. The criterion range can be placed anywhere on the spreadsheet where there is room. We will place it underneath our database. Why don't we copy the field names that we already have? It will save some typing and we aren't as likely to make mistakes. Move the cell pointer to cell A1. Press / to display the main menu, and C to select Copy. The range to copy from is the whole row of field names, so press the right arrow key to highlight the cell F1 and press Enter. 123 is prompting us for a range to copy to. Let's copy the field names in row 12. Move the cell pointer to cell A12 and press Enter. There, we now have a duplicate of the field names that we will use for the criterion range. That is the only preliminary step necessary before going to the Query menu to set up the input and criterion ranges. We will use the following procedure to set up the input range. Press / to display the main menu, D to select Data, Q to select Query, and I to select Input. 123 is asking for the input range. It is very important to remember the difference between the data range you use to sort the database and the input range. The database range did not include field names. The input range that we are going to specify now does include field names. If the cell pointer is not in cell A1, press Home to move it there and anchor it with the period. Now highlight the whole database. The input range should read A1 through F10. Press Enter and we are returned to the Query menu. Next, we will set the criterion range. Press C to select Criterion. Again, we will need to specify the range. Our criterion range consists of the row of field names at row 12 and the blank row underneath them at row 13. So move the cell pointer to A12. Anchor it with the period and expand the cell pointer to F13. Press Enter to finish this step. The blank row is where we type the information we would like 123 to find for us. The query menu is still displayed, but we have to enter our search criterion before we can find anything. So let's press Q to select Quit and return to the Ready mode. We are going to search for all the people in the database with the last name of Jones. So move the cell pointer to cell A13, which is the first blank cell under last name in the criterion range, and type Jones. Make sure you type it exactly the way you expect it to be in the database and press Enter. Now that we have something to search for, let's query our database. Press / to display the main menu. D to select Data. Q to select Query. And F to select Find. You see the record containing the last name Jones is highlighted. Try pressing the up arrow or down arrow keys now. 123 beeps at you and the highlight does not move, does it? There is only one record in the database with the last name Jones. If there were more, the highlight would jump to the next record with the last name Jones. Now we must press Escape to get back to the Query menu, and Q to select Quit and return to the Ready mode. It is not necessary to go through the Data Query menu procedure to perform subsequent searches. It would be very inconvenient if you wanted to do several searches in a row. The function key F7 can be used to repeat the last query command. Before we use F7, let's change our search criterion. Instead of searching for last name, why don't we search for a city? Move the cursor to cell A13 and press / R for range, E for erase, and Enter to finish. This will get rid of our last search criterion. Now move the cell pointer to cell D13 and enter the word Seattle. When you are ready, press F7. There, the first record where the city is Seattle is highlighted. Press the down arrow key now, and the other record containing the city Seattle is highlighted. Press the down arrow key again. That's right. 123 beeps at you, indicating that there are no more records in that direction that satisfy the query condition. Press the up arrow key twice, and you will see that there are no more records that satisfy the query condition either. When you are done looking at records, press Escape to return to the Ready mode. You can also perform multiple criterion searches. If you type a last name and a first name in the criterion range, 123 would find only those records where both conditions were satisfied. If you type a last name in 2 rows, 123 would find all records where either last name was found. You would have to expand the criterion range by 1 row to perform a search where either name would be found. Now suppose you wanted to extract certain records from the database so you could create a report or perform some other task with them. This picture shows an output range with both records where the city is equal to Seattle. The input and criterion ranges remain the same, and an output range is required. The output range is similar to the criterion range, except that it includes only 1 row. Let's create the output range and extract all the records where the city is equal to Seattle. First, we will copy the row of field names from the criterion range down to row 15. Move the cell pointer to cell A12. Press / to display the main menu, and C to select Copy. Highlight all the field names and press Enter to select the range to copy from. Move the cell pointer to A15 and press Enter to finish the copy command. All we have to do now is tell 123 where the output range is and perform the extraction. Press / to display the main menu, D to select Data, Q to select Query, and O to select Output. 123 prompts for the output range. Move the cell pointer to A15 if it is not already there. Anchor it with a period and highlight all the field names on that row. Press Enter to finish specifying the output range. With the query menu still displayed, all we need to do is press E to select Extract and watch the results. Both records where the city is Seattle are displayed under the output range.
This will really help me with my phone list, Professor. I think I could use the database every day.
Well, Pam, we only scratched the surface of the database's capabilities. But even with these basic tools, you were right about the convenience of an electronic phone list. Before we proceed, press Q and go back to the Ready mode. The 123 database commands can be used to create some very sophisticated reports. The basics that you have used today need to be practiced because, as you can see from the exercise we just did, each step must be performed before you can get results. Now I want to talk to you about printing a report using the information we just extracted from the database. Any range of cells can be printed in 123. I chose the block of information to print so that I can teach you some advanced printing commands, not because it has to be done while using the database. Remember, a Lotus 123 database is nothing more than a spreadsheet that is arranged according to a specific layout, which provides the ability to sort, find, and extract records. Suppose we wanted to print this group of cells. We already know that all we have to do is choose the print command, highlight the range we want printed, and select Go from the print menu. If we want to have a header with the current date and a page number like this one, we can use the Print Options header and command to set it up. Let's do that now. Let's move the output range up so you can see it better. Move the cell pointer to cell A15 so we can easily specify the print range when we are ready. Press / to display the main menu, P to select Print, and P to select Printer. The print menu is displayed. We need to specify a print range and set up our header before we print the report. Start by specifying the print range. Press R to select Range. 123 prompts us for the range to print. Notice that the cell pointer is not anchored, so press the period to anchor it and highlight from A15 to F17. Finish with the Enter key. The next step will be to set up a header. Press O to select Options and H to select Header. 123 is requesting a header. A header can only be one line long, and it is divided into a left section, center section, and a right section. When you type the header, separate each section with the pipe symbol. It is this split vertical line on the same key with the backslash. Let's type a header similar to the one that was just on the screen. Type the word date followed by a colon and a space. Now type an @ sign. This tells 123 to insert the date that is set in the computer whenever it prints this header. Next, separate the date from the report title by typing a pipe. Then type the title of the report, Seattle Members. Then type another pipe to separate the title from the page number. Type the word page, a space, and a £sign. The date will print against the left margin, the report title will print in the center of the page, and the page number will print against the right margin. Press Enter to return to the Print Options menu, and Escape to return to the Print menu. Go ahead and print the report if you wish. There is one more print option that is very useful. It is called Borders. In addition to a header and a footer, you can specify one or more rows or columns that will print on every page of the report. Suppose that you wanted to print the same report we just printed, but it was several pages long. The header we created will print at the top of every page, but the field names will only print at the top of page 1. By changing the print range to not include the field names and setting the field name row as a border, you can cause it to print on every page of the report. Here is how to do it. The print menu should still be on the screen. Let's change the print range first, so press R to select Range. 123 shows the last print range we specified. Press Escape, and the print range becomes unanchored, and the cell pointer goes back to cell A15. Move the cell pointer to A16. Anchor it by pressing the period and expand the print range to cell F17 and press Enter. The next step will be to set up the border row. Press O to select Options from the print menu and B to select Borders from the Options menu. Now 123 is prompting us to specify columns of rows for a border. Release 3 gives us an added border option, Frame. You can also print the frame or the column letters and row numbers on your spreadsheet. Press R to select rows. You can have one or several rows in a border if you wish.
If the cell pointer is not on row 15, move it there and press Enter. Now that the Options menu has reappeared, press Q to select Quit and return to the Print menu. If you print now, the field names will appear on the report the same as they did before. If you want to see how borders print, you will have to create a report that will be longer than one page. For now, let's move on to our next subject. But first, press Q to return to the Ready mode. You can save the database if you like. It might be nice to refer back to it later. Our final lesson today will teach you to create a graph that you can view on the screen. If you don't have a color or a graphics monitor, you won't be able to see the results of this lesson. Graphs are used to present all sorts of business results, facts, and trends. There are several types of graphs that can be created with 1, 2, 3. The first type is a bar graph. The second type is a pie chart. The third is an XY graph. The fourth is a stacked bar graph. The fifth is a line graph. One of the strengths of Release 3 is the added graphics capabilities. There are a number of new graph types you can create, as well as a number of added graphing options. We will cover graphics in more detail in another lesson. Today we are going to create a simple bar graph and a simple pie chart using the same information. Before we begin, let's clear the screen and enter some names and numbers so we can create our graphs. Press / to display the main menu, W to select Worksheet, E to select Erase, and Y to confirm. Let's enter the data shown in this simple example. At A1, enter Tom. At B1, enter Mary. At C1, enter Joe. At C2, enter 289. At B2, enter 652. And at A2, enter 345. Now we have the raw materials necessary for a graph. We will create a bar graph first. Lotus 1, 2, 3 will require us to specify the type of graph we want to view. Then we need to specify the X range. The X range includes the names of the data items we want plotted. In this case, the X range will be the names in row 1. Then we need to specify the A range, which is the first data range, the numbers in the second row. Shall we create our graph now? Press / to display the main menu and G to select Graph. Notice that we can plot up to 6 different data sets of data in a graph. The X range is always used for labels. Start by pressing T to select Type and B to select Bar. The graph menu returns, so let's press X so we can specify the X range. 1, 2, 3 is prompting us for the X range, so move the cell pointer to A1. Press the period to anchor it, highlight all 3 names, and press Enter. Now the menu is displayed, so press A to specify the first data range, A. If the cell pointer is not on cell A2, move it there, anchor it, highlight the rest of the numbers in the row, and press Enter. Everybody look at the screen and press V so we can view our masterpiece. This is some graph, isn't it? These bars in the middle represent the numbers from the spreadsheet. The names of the data ranges appear under each bar, and this is the Y range. It is generated automatically starting at 0 and going to the next higher number above the highest number in the data range. You can add legends, titles, and grids to a graph to make it more effective. Each graph that you create can be named and kept for a future use. You must save the spreadsheet after you name graphs. You can also save individual graphs as picture files. Picture files can be printed from the Lotus Print Graph program. Press the space bar to return to the graph menu when you are done. The next step is very simple. We will change to a pie chart and view it. Press T to select Type and P to select Pie. The graph menu returns, so press V to view the pie chart. Notice that there are no numbers on this chart. A pie chart shows what percent of the whole each data element is. Press the space bar to return to the graph menu and Q to return to the Ready mode. This just gives you an idea of the time savers you can create with just a little practice.
Well, Professor, I've really learned a lot today. You've made it easy. Thank you.
Thank you for being such a good student, Pam. On the screen now are some other tapes available in my series.